Chapter 1287. Hou Yi's Archery Method. These words appeared in Li Xiaotian's mind. Every stroke was like a sharp arrow, causing people to not dare to look straight at it. What is this? She could vaguely guess what was going on, but she was still unable to hide the shock in her heart. Tang Zheng's voice sounded in her ears. This is Hou Yi's archery method, created by the owner of the heaven-shocking bow and the sun-shooting arrow, Hou Yi. Hou Yi used this set of archery techniques to shoot the sun. This is a martial art. You are a warrior, so you can cultivate it. Use this set of archery techniques to cooperate with the heaven-shocking bow and the sun-shooting arrow to fight the enemy, and try to buy me as much time as possible. Li Xiaotian's lips trembled, her eyes shining brightly. This was what she had dreamed of. She did not expect that her dream would really become a reality. The demon clan's attack had already arrived in front of the somersault cloud, and the light from the heaven-splitting axe that had a hole in it chopped down. Li Xiaotian's mind moved. She browsed through the Hou Yi's archery method once, and understood it clearly. She was obviously more proficient in learning the Hou Yi's archery method than in training other martial arts in the past. She had always been studying archery, collecting all kinds of famous archery techniques, mastering them, removing the dregs and extracting the essence. Although these archery techniques could not be compared to the Hou Yi's archery method, they had deepened his comprehension of archery. When he saw the Hou Yi's archery method, a lot of knowledge was integrated and his mind was enlightened. Naturally, he comprehended a portion of the essence of the Hou Yi's archery method. The Hou Yi's archery method had a total of 9 moves, namely metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, fire, thunder, and lightning. The first 5 arrows were compatible with the 5 elements. After learning these 5 moves, one would be able to master the 5 elements, and thus be able to unleash the wind, fire, thunder, and lightning moves evolved from the 5 elements. It had to be said that Hou Yi's original set of archery was extraordinary. It was ingenious and seamless. Li Xiaotian combined the essence of the archery techniques he had learned with Hou Yi's archery method, and immediately learned the first move. Golden arrow. All of this actually happened in a split second, so when the heaven-splitting axe chopped down on her head, she pulled the heaven-shocking bow into the shape of a full moon. 1. Read a book. She was already exhausted, but after learning the Hou Yi swordplay, her inner strength was constantly replenished. In addition, she did not consume as much power as before when she drew her bow and shot an arrow again. It was very energy efficient. This was the benefit of learning the Hou Yi sword technique. The Hou Yi archery technique was specially created for the heaven-shocking bow and the sun-shooting arrow. She clasped the shooting sun arrow with 2 fingers, and a golden light radiated from the end of the arrow bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, the shooting sun arrow became a glittering golden arrow. Break! With a light shout, the shooting sun arrow turned into a golden light and left the bowstring. From the moment the shooting sun arrow left the bowstring, the terrifying pressure increased sharply. It covered the sky and covered the earth, surging towards the opponent. Clang! The shooting sun arrow hit the broken light of the sky-splitting axe. The light shattered, and the shooting sun arrow accurately hit the sky-splitting axe. The 2 divine weapons clashed, releasing a resplendent light. The tiny golden lights that flew in all directions were also like arrows, striking a few demon clans, causing them to be injured one after another. Some of them even had their hearts pierced through and fell from the sky. Only then did Demon Clan know that this seemingly powerless golden light actually had such terrifying destructive power. No one dared to underestimate it anymore. But why did the power of the shooting sun arrow she shot out increase by so much in the blink of an eye? He could not figure it out. Saint King directly clashed with the shooting sun arrow, and had a deeper understanding of it. The moment the sky-splitting axe and the shooting sun arrow clashed, his heart violently thumped a few times, and he felt uneasy. What's going on? Li Xiaotian had a feeling of contentment. She had never felt so carefree before. That feeling of power made her feel intoxicated. She was greatly encouraged, and without giving the other party a chance to think, another golden arrow left the bowstring. At the same time, she seemed to have a subtle connection with the shooting sun arrow. Although she was not as connected as Tang Zheng with the shooting sun arrow, she seemed to be able to sense the shooting sun arrow. Look, Book the arrows that were shot out earlier were still dancing in the air, as if they had sensed her summoning, and actually flew back into her hands. She was pleasantly surprised. Previously, no matter how much effort she expended, or how many arrows she shot, the shooting sun arrow was just a weapon. Other than its greater power, there was no special feeling. Now, when her fingers clasped the shooting sun arrow, that subtle connection was particularly clear, as if there was a blood connection. Seeing the second shooting sun arrow coming, Demon Clan all raised their magical weapons to block it. Saint King took the lead, and the sky-splitting axe directly chopped the shooting sun arrow. Pa! The shooting sun arrow fell from the sky. Saint King was caught off guard just now, and now that he was fully focused, how could he let the shooting sun arrow succeed? After all, the difference in strength between the two sides was too great. Even with the divine weapon and Hou Yi's archery, it was impossible to win. Li Xiaotian also knew this, so she did not expect to win. She only needed to stall for time, and that was enough. Stop the Demon Clan's advance, and let Tang Zheng concentrate on moving the mountain. She did not need to kill anyone. As long as she could stall for time, it would be considered a success. Saint King cut down the shooting sun arrow, but before he could catch his breath, 2 golden shooting sun arrows came unexpectedly. Damn it, not again. The sage's eyes bulged, and he impatiently waved the heaven-splitting axe, chopping down another arrow. However, another arrow still brushed past his arm as it flew past. There was a burning pain, and he almost saw blood. He was anxious and angry that he was almost injured by such a weak woman. This was definitely the greatest shame in his life. Kill! He looked up to the sky and roared, his voice shaking the surroundings. Li Xiaotian kept shooting arrows, and successfully delayed the Demon Clan's advance. This was definitely a counterattack. A counterattack by a weakling. A counterattack that belonged exclusively to Li Xiaotian. It was not only the Demon Clan who witnessed all of this. In the distance, several pairs of eyes also witnessed all of this, and they all revealed expressions of shock. This was Granny Li leading Long Xianyuan, and the others to chase after the magma. When they saw Mount Buzhou, they did not feel anything special. In their eyes, this was just a relatively tall mountain. When they saw the great battle on the peak of the mountain, their attention was completely attracted by the two sides of the battle. They were not in a hurry to show themselves. The two sides of the battle were very powerful, not to mention that they were all enemies. The best choice was to sit back and reap the benefits. Not long after, they witnessed the magma hitting the foundation of Mount Buzhou. Mount Buzhou was on the verge of collapse, and they immediately guessed that the magma was originally here to shake this mountain. Only then did they begin to pay attention to Mount Buzhou. With their eyesight, they could not see anything extraordinary, so they could only give up. However, the next scene completely shocked their minds. With just a pair of hands, Tang Zheng was actually able to lift up such a huge mountain. This was not something else. The ancients lifted a bronze cauldron, and this was a mountain. The strength to pick up a mountain, and the might to conquer the world. Wasn't this talking about Tang Zheng? Tang Zheng was their opponent. Seeing their opponent do such a feat, one could imagine the feeling in their hearts. The few of them looked at each other, and swallowed their saliva. They were still unable to digest the shock in their hearts. What kind of divine ability is this? Long Xuanyuan's white hair fluttered in the wind, and his pair of old eyes burst out with light. He took a deep breath and asked with difficulty. The corner of Granny Li's mouth twitched, and the wrinkles on her forehead deepened. Staring at Tang Zheng's figure from afar, she really could not imagine how a person could shake a mountain. Even Ji Wuxiang definitely did not have this kind of skill. Could it be that Tang Zheng's strength had far surpassed the Lord Ji Wuxiang's? Granny Li subconsciously shook her head and rejected this absurd idea. Who was the Lord? He was an invincible person. How could he be surpassed by Tang Zheng? Tang Zheng had only cultivated for a few years, and how many years had the Lord cultivated? There was simply no comparison. When Granny Li came to this conclusion, she could not help but feel a little guilty. In fact, she was just deceiving herself. Hearing Long Xuanyuan's question, Granny Li did not change her expression, and pretended to be disdainful and said, "What's the use of this kind of flashy divine ability? Fighting is not a matter of whose strength is stronger. Long Xianyuan was startled for a moment, and tactfully did not ask any more questions. These words were only used to deceive a 3-year-old child. It was useless to deceive Long Xianyuan. Long Xianyuan secretly sighed. Tang Zheng's strength was beyond his imagination. His Long family actually had the advantage early on, and could establish a very friendly relationship with Tang Zheng. That way, the Long family's glory would be unparalleled, and the Yan family's glory and status today would probably belong to the Long family. After all, with Mu Hongyan and Nana as the link in the middle, the effect was extraordinary. However, all these opportunities were destroyed by his son, and the Long family had no choice but to stand on the opposite side of Tang Zheng. Long Xianyuan suppressed these unrealistic thoughts. Since he had already pledged allegiance to the Lord, and had seen the power of the Lord, and had also received practical benefits, then he should not let his imagination run wild. Rebellion meant a more tragic result. He absolutely did not dare to take that step. Not long after Granny Li finished speaking, she saw a scene that shocked her heart again. Li Xiaotian had learned Hou Yi's archery technique, and shot out golden arrows with peerless power. Granny Li's heart thumped, as if it was about to jump out of her throat. Who was Li Xiaotian? He was the successor she had cultivated, but in the end he abandoned her and stood on the opposite side of her. He even took Li Palace from her, causing her to suffer heavy losses. Granny Li wished she could personally clean up the house, but unfortunately, she never had the chance. Previously, when she saw Li Xiaotian risking his life to protect Tang Zheng, the anger in her heart kept burning. She raised him, but he risked his life to protect her enemy. Preposterous. She viciously thought that Li Xiaotian would be killed by the demons, and the more miserable his death, the happier she would be. However, the heavens did not follow her wishes. Li Xiaotian unexpectedly counterattacked. She did not know where he learned such a strange archery technique, but when he shot out an arrow, its power was peerless, and it could actually stop the advance of the demons. Granny Li felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She was very clear that she absolutely did not have the strength. In this way, wouldn't she be defeated? In the Yangtze River, the waves behind drove the waves before, and she, the wave in front, was ruthlessly beaten to death on the beach. Chapter 1288. Granny Li and the others looked at the battle as if they had seen a ghost. They had mixed feelings and didn't know what to do for a while. Long Xianyuan pondered for a long time and asked nervously, "Granny Li, what should we do now? Attack or retreat?" Everyone had a balance in their hearts. Although they were not afraid of death, they didn't want to make unnecessary sacrifices. In particular, both sides were very strong. Without Ji Wuxiang leading them, they didn't dare to fight head-on. Granny Li's expression kept changing. Although she was the temporary leader, she didn't dare to kill the Lord's subordinates. In the future, when the Lord passed the test, she wouldn't be able to escape the blame if there were no capable subordinates. Just as she was hesitating, a person flew over from the horizon like a shooting star, arriving in an instant. The people in the battle hadn't noticed, but it didn't escape Granny Li's eyes. Her heart skipped a beat. Another strong person had arrived. This person's flying speed was so fast that they couldn't fight against him. She immediately wanted to retreat. No matter which side this person belonged to, he was undoubtedly a cultivator, and was the absolute natural enemy of this group of martial artists. If they were discovered by the other party, it would be too late to escape. Retreat! She immediately gave the order. But before she could take a step, she suddenly raised her hand and shouted, "Wait a minute!" Swish! A gaze swept over from a distance and focused on them. They were discovered. Granny Li's heart was beating fast, and a huge pressure shrouded her heart, making it difficult for her to breathe. How powerful is this cultivator? She had never felt like this before. She felt that she was already half a step into the gates of hell, and there was no room for resistance. She didn't even dare to think of resisting. She timidly raised her head, trying to see the other party's appearance, but it was too far and she couldn't see clearly. She really couldn't imagine how terrifying it would be if the other party was standing in front of her. She was afraid that she wouldn't even be able to move a finger. The others felt as if they had fallen into hell, enduring endless torment. Sweat dripped down, soaking their clothes. Their bodies were weak, and they almost sat down. Fortunately, this gaze did not linger on them for too long as it swept past them. Huff huff. The sound of heavy breathing immediately rang out. Like a bellows, he gasped for air. Previously, they had even held their breaths, as if they were deeply afraid of angering the other party. A feeling of having survived a calamity struck his heart. They really wanted to flee immediately, but they were afraid of attracting the attention of the other party. Moreover, such an expert had appeared rashly, and if they didn't know anything about the other party, wouldn't they be in the dark when facing the other party in the future? Granny Lee was not a timid person. Although she was really scared this time, she still resisted the fear in her heart, and stayed for the time being. He would first observe the changes and try his best to figure out the opponent's background. Then, he would take advantage of the moment when the opponent was truly surprised to escape. In addition, this person was not interested in them, and even disdained them. That meant that this person was definitely here for the two parties involved in the battle. Although this kind of neglect was a blow to them, they felt incomparably fortunate. This person stepped on the void, walking towards Mount Buzhou, as if he was walking on flat ground. The two sides of the battle finally noticed this person, and their gazes all turned towards this uninvited guest. Who's this? Saint King frowned deeply and stared at the other party. I've never seen him before. Could he be one of the Yellow Emperor's former subordinates? The demons knew very well that the Yellow Emperor's former subordinates had revived many experts, and they didn't know all of them. This person was a new face, and it was very likely that he was one of them. The demons and the Yellow Emperor's tribe were as incompatible as fire and water. After guessing the identity of the other party, Saint King's murderous aura became particularly strong, and he roared, "Stop him!" A few of the devils roared as they activated their magic treasures, and charged toward the intruders with ferocious expressions. The newcomer was unperturbed, and his eyes didn't change in the slightest. It was as if the fierce attack didn't happen at all, and it didn't arouse his interest at all. When the demon's attack was still a few meters away from him, he gently raised his head and waved his hand without any warning. The two of them suddenly exploded, and turned into flesh and blood that filled the sky, and fell down like a rain of blood. This move was truly frightening. It was done so casually, or in other words, with a wave of his sleeve, he had killed two demon race elites. The depth of this skill could even be said to be terrifying. Saint King's eyelids twitched wildly, and his heart beat violently, as if it was going to jump out of his throat. When an expert made a move, every move revealed too much. Saint King had already seen that the newcomer's cultivation was far above his, because he couldn't do what the other party did. When did such a strong expert appear in the Yellow Emperor's former subordinates? He racked his brains but couldn't think of anything. At the same time, he fell into deep worry. Could it be that his goal this time was really going to fail? First, there was Tang Zheng constantly stirring up trouble, and now there was the appearance of an expert from the Yellow Emperor's former subordinates. His chances of success were getting slimmer and slimmer. When he thought of the significance of this operation, he couldn't help but want to stomp his feet and curse. This was the important task that Ancestor Qiyu gave him, and it wasn't just to collapse Mount Buzhou. This was only the first step, and there were more important things to do after that. Once this step was interrupted, there was no hope for the rest of the plan. If he ruined Ancestor Qiyu's plan, how would he explain it when he returned? His heart was in a mess, and he was at his wit's end. But he didn't know that Tang Zheng's heart was even more confused. He looked deeply at the newcomer, and his eyes were full of disbelief. There was a voice in his heart shouting, "How could it be him? Who was this person?" Tang Zheng had already recognized him. They had only met once, but he couldn't forget him for the rest of his life. It was just that the other party had never seen Tang Zheng before. This was a one-sided meeting, because Tang Zheng saw this person in the illusion in Lengya Pavilion. He was the Dragon Slayer, who killed many of the Dragon Clan's Dragon Slayers, and then traveled through space. Tang Zheng didn't expect that the Dragon Slayer who came to his world was the person he saw in the illusion. He also finally confirmed that what he saw in the illusion was happening in real time. Tang Zheng's heart couldn't help but beat wildly. If it was someone else, no matter who it was, he wouldn't have such a big reaction. However, This dragon slayer had indeed managed to do so, and had disturbed his heart. In order not to implicate me, the golden dragon took the initiative to leave me. It wanted to attract the dragon slayer's attention, but it didn't expect it to work at all. As soon as it left, the dragon slayer and I met. No. Tang Jing secretly shook his head. I'm a secret weapon that has always been hidden. The dragon slayer won't see through my identity, and he has never seen me before. So as long as I hide well enough, my identity won't be exposed. Thinking of this, he forced himself to suppress the restless fear, and tried to calm his emotions as much as possible. He focused his attention on Mount Buzhou. Because of Li Xiaoyan's effective control, the somersault cloud had already carried him over the magma area below. Seeing that the demons had all stopped, and were looking at the dragon slayer warily, Tang Jing took advantage of this opportunity to move the somersault cloud a little further. Then his hands moved downwards bit by bit. Mount Buzhou had escaped a calamity. Once it landed, it would be connected to the ground. It would be impossible for the demons to move it again. The dragon slayer's gaze swept across the demons, and then landed on Tang Jing. He narrowed his eyes slightly. This time, he was attracted by the earth-shattering commotion at Mount Buzhou. He had just come from the sea and set foot on the continent to search for the whereabouts of the dragons. The dragons of this world were very smart, and hid well enough. But they still couldn't escape his search. He didn't doubt this at all. So he wasn't in a hurry. When he sensed the commotion here, he had an idea. He planned to investigate the strength and stamina of this world. Or rather, meet the strong people of this world. Over the years, the dragon slayer had moved from one world to another, and killed many dragons. He was getting stronger and stronger, and so was his ambition. A seed had sprouted in his heart. He was already a little unsatisfied with his current achievements, and was prepared to expand his territory and obtain more things. This view had already spread among the dragon slayer. Although it hadn't formed a consensus, many people had already accepted this view. This dragon slayer had also accepted this point, which was why he had taken the extra step of not directly looking for the dragon clan. He first saw Granny Li and the others hiding in the distance sneakily. He directly ignored them, because they were too weak. He wasn't interested at all. His attention was naturally attracted by the demons and Tang Jing. The strength of the demons made him see them in a new light. He thought to himself that the strength of the cultivators of this world was remarkable. When he saw Tang Jing, a glint flashed across his eyes. He clicked his tongue in wonder. He actually has the ability to move a mountain. That's interesting. His cultivation isn't too high, but to be able to move this mountain, he must have an extraordinary ability. The people of this world are giving me more and more surprises. The dragon slayer revealed a playful smile as he sized up Tang Jing. Although he was far away, Tang Jing felt like he was being stared at by a ferocious tiger. He was like the prey in the other party's mouth. As long as the other party opened his mouth, his life would be devoured. Suddenly, the dragon slayer's gaze landed on the somersault cloud. His pupils shrank slightly, and he muttered to himself. This cloud is... His eyes revealed a look of disbelief. The ability to move clouds and summon rain was the dragon race's ability. Of course, it wasn't unique to them. If humans were strong enough, or had cultivated the corresponding ability, they could also do this. But it was extremely rare. The dragon slayer had absorbed so many dragon souls, and had fought with the dragons all year round. His understanding of the dragons was extremely detailed. Therefore, when he saw the somersault cloud, he was immediately attracted. His interest in Tang Jing immediately surpassed that of the demons. Being stared at by this gaze, Tang Jing suddenly had an ominous premonition. Could it be that the dragon slayer had seen through him? Following the dragon slayer's gaze, he immediately noticed the somersault cloud under his feet. He cursed inwardly, knowing what had attracted the dragon slayer's attention. Careless, too careless. Tang Jing lamented inwardly. His face became pale, and his breathing became rapid. Chapter 1289. The somersault cloud had almost exposed his identity as a cultivator of the dragon god technique, so the golden dragon's departure was meaningless. He might even fall into the hands of the dragon slayer before the golden dragon did. Tang Jing panicked. He quickly retracted his gaze and focused on Mount Buzhou. Even if he died, he had to settle Mount Buzhou first and not let the demon's evil plan succeed. Mount Buzhou slowly descended. Boom. The earth trembled. The magma on the ground also jumped up and down violently, like a river boiling. This loud sound seemed to have landed in everyone's hearts, shaking them to the point that their hearts swayed. The demons all widened their eyes in disbelief. Their plan had really failed, and Mount Buzhou was once again standing tall on the ground. The sage inwardly cried out in grief. The task that Ancestor Chiyu had given him had completely failed, and the follow-up plan was also of little value. After a while the earth calmed down. Mount Buzhou towered into the clouds and stood tall on the ground. Tang Zheng heaved a long sigh of relief. If he really died in the hands of the Dragon Slayer, at least Mount Buzhou would be safe. At least he had fulfilled one of his wishes. Li Xiaotian and Lu Qingmei did not know the Dragon Slayer, but seeing him attack, they knew that he was not a good person. The demons had already stopped attacking. The two of them were even more nervous. They looked at the Dragon Slayer warily and asked Tang Zheng softly, "Who is this person?" Tang Zheng hesitated for a few seconds and shook his head. "I don't know." Although he felt that he had already been exposed, he would not take the initiative to reveal the Dragon Slayer's identity until the last moment. Everyone would have a sliver of hope. Tang Zheng was no exception. "Be careful. If there are any problems later, you guys go first. Don't worry about anyone." Tang Zheng could not help but remind them seriously. Lu Qingmei and Li Xiaotian looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. A person who could make Tang Zheng say such words was really not simple. The situation was far more complicated and grim than they had imagined. "We won't leave you behind," Lu Qingmei said without hesitation. Li Xiaotian did not say a word, but her intentions were self-evident. Tang Zheng had taught her the Hou-Yi archery technique, and also lent her the heaven-shocking bow and the shooting sun arrows, fulfilling her long-cherished wish. Even if she died, she would have no regrets. Tang Zheng treated her so well, so how could she leave him? Tang Zheng was anxious. He looked deeply at the two of them, and understood their resolute intentions. He was extremely moved. However, his rationality still allowed him to make the most correct choice. He said to the Somersault Cloud in his heart, "Somersault Cloud, I know you can definitely hear me. If the Dragon Slayer attacks us later, take the two of them and leave. The faster the better. Don't worry about me." The Somersault Cloud vibrated slightly, as though responding to him. "This is my only request. I can die, but the two of them can't," Tang Zheng added. The Somersault Cloud did not react, as though it had accepted the arrangement. Tang Zheng secretly heaved a sigh of relief, looked at the Buzhou Mountain and said, "Buzhou Mountain, you will have to rely on yourself in the future. I hope you will not repeat the same mistake." The Dragon Slayer walked over confidently, and the distance between them grew closer and closer. Whether it was Tang Zheng and the others, or the demon clan, they all felt a wave of pressure, as though a 1,000-kilogram boulder was pressing down on their hearts. Tang Zheng stood proudly in front of the two girls, like a sword that pierced the heavens. Li Xiaotian was infected by Tang Zheng's emotions. He tightened his grip on the divine weapon, but in the next second he released his fingers and said, "I'll return the heaven-shocking bow and the shooting sun arrows to you." "No need." Tang Zheng rejected. "Perhaps their true home is you and not me. You have already cultivated the Hou-Yi archery technique, and your fate with them has already been formed. Use them well, and I hope that you can recreate the glory of the past in your hands." Li Xiaotian was stunned. She never dreamed that Tang Zheng would give these two divine weapons to her. This surprise was too great. For a moment, she found it hard to digest. She stood there in a daze, not knowing what to do. Actually, Tang Zheng's thoughts were very simple. He was not a match for the Dragon Slayer, and the only one who could stop the Dragon Slayer was the Azura. It was a pity that the Azura had been injured by the heavenly furnace formation earlier, so his strength must have been reduced. He did not know if he could deal with the Dragon Slayer. As for the shooting sun arrows and the heaven-shocking bow, they might be useful in his hands, but against the Dragon Slayer, their effects would definitely be limited. If he were to die in battle, it would be a pity for the two divine weapons to fall into the hands of the Dragon Slayer. It would be better to give them to Li Xiaotian first, and prevent the inheritance of Hou Yi from being lost in his hands. Li Xiaotian, back then you spent a lot of effort and thought of all sorts of ways to obtain the heaven-shocking bow and the shooting sun arrows. Now that you have lost your memories, I can be considered to have fulfilled your wish. Tang Zheng thought in his heart. Li Xiaotian did not know what Tang Zheng was thinking, and finally woke up from his shock, as if he had just woken up from a dream. He looked at Tang Zheng's majestic back with mixed feelings and said, "How can this be? They are yours. There's no need to say any more. I've already made up my mind." Tang Zheng interrupted Li Xiaotian without any explanation. "Remember my words. Use them well. Don't let me down." Li Xiaotian was not a pretentious person. He had also noticed Tang Zheng's determination. His eyes were moved and passionate. He took a deep breath and firmly promised, "Don't worry, I will definitely not let them be humiliated." Tang Zheng glanced at Lu Qingmei from the corner of his eyes and said, "Sister Mei, take care of yourself. I didn't take good care of you in the past." Because of her special identity, Lu Qingmei's relationship with Tang Zheng had always been a secret. It could be said to be an underground relationship, which truly wronged her. Lu Qingmei was meticulous, and immediately understood the meaning behind his words. Her eyes reddened, and she held back the tears that were about to fall, and said in a daze, "What nonsense are you saying? This is my own choice. I have no regrets." A heavy mood filled everyone's hearts, and the air seemed to have frozen. The dragon slayer stepped on the air. There was no sound of footsteps, but every time he stepped on the ground, ripples would appear in the air. One ripple after another connected with each other, as if he was walking on the surface of water. This scene was extremely strange. Kill. A few demon clans could not withstand the oppressive atmosphere and completely exploded. With a roar, their killing intent shook the heavens as they crazily rushed towards the dragon slayer. The dragon slayer was unmoved. He did not even look at the other party. He extended his finger and waved it lightly. A few demon clans flew out and crashed into the hard rocks of Mount Buzhou. They were smashed into pieces and died on the spot. The demon clans retreated one after another. Although they were bearing the pressure of Mount Tai, no one dared to rashly attack and throw away their lives. "Who are you?" Saint King saw his subordinates die one by one, and it was impossible for him to remain indifferent. Finally, he took a step forward with difficulty, raised his neck, gathered his courage, and asked in a stern voice. The dragon slayer's gaze finally moved away from Tang Zheng, and looked at Saint King and said, "Are you the experts of this world?" The sage stared blankly at this question, and felt that it was absurd. What did he mean by this world? Could it be that he was not from this world? Saint King was shocked by this thought. He had always thought that the other party was an old subordinate of the Yellow Emperor, and this sentence already showed that he was definitely not an old subordinate of the Yellow Emperor. Then who was he? Saint King had more questions in his heart, and the pressure in his heart doubled. "Who are you, and where are you from?" Saint King suppressed the many questions in his heart and asked again. The dragon slayer frowned impatiently and said, "Why do you have so many questions? If you don't answer me, why should I answer you?" Saint King was not an ordinary person after all. He gathered his courage and retorted. The dragon slayer stared with his thick eyebrows and laughed wildly. "Ha ha ha, interesting. I actually met someone who is not afraid of death. Those who dared to speak to me like this before, do you know what happened to them?" Saint King snorted coldly and did not say a word. "You are not an idiot. It seems that you have already guessed it. Yes, those people's ending is death," the dragon slayer said proudly. As soon as these words came out, the air seemed to have dropped to the freezing point, and a cold wind blew into the hearts of everyone. Among you people other than your strength, the others are not even able to withstand a single blow, and are no different from ants. The dragon slayer said bluntly, and in his words, there was no hiding the contempt from the bottom of his heart. The demons were furious. They were all the elites of the demon race, and had fought with the natives countless times in the sky beyond heaven. They were all powerhouses who had wandered around the gates of hell countless times, but they were actually called ants by the dragon slayer. Their anger could be imagined. But no one stood out to refute. The people who stood out just now had already explained everything. They were indeed not the Dragon Slayer's opponent, and could only send themselves to death. This humiliation could only be swallowed into the stomach. The insufferably arrogant demon race also had a time when they admitted defeat. If this spread out, the demon race's illustrious reputation would be ruined. Saint King clenched his teeth. He also felt humiliated. After all, he was stronger than the other demons. He hesitated for a moment, and bluntly retorted, "What is there to fear about death? In the face of death, we demons are dignified men. We have never been fearless." "Haha, you have guts." The Dragon Slayer shook his head and said disdainfully, "Many people were like you in the past, but in the end, it was proven that they were just stubborn mouths. Their bodies are often more honest than their mouths. I will deal with you in a while. You all can be quiet spectators. Don't ruin my good thing." The Dragon Slayer changed the topic, and unexpectedly did not immediately pursue the demon's provocation. His gaze once again turned to Tang Zheng. Looking at him at such a close distance, Tang Zheng felt as if he had taken off all his clothes, as if all his secrets were going to be seen through by the Dragon Slayer. Of course, this was just a feeling, it was not the truth. Tang Zheng had practiced too many mysterious techniques to completely see through him and understand all his secrets. Even the Dragon Slayer could not do it. But the Dragon Slayer's scrutinizing gaze still saw some clues. TSK, at such a young age, you have actually practiced so many techniques, but they are mixed and orderly, in good order. This is especially valuable. The Dragon Slayer praised, his gaze finally fixed on the somersault cloud. "Clouds and rain, this is your masterpiece, right?" Chapter 1290. After hearing the Dragon Slayer's question, Tang Zheng's expression darkened. His muscles tightened as he became more and more vigilant. The actual situation was far more serious than his speculation. The Dragon Slayer actually saw the process of him summoning clouds and summoning rain. Didn't this make his identity obvious? Seeing the Dragon Slayer focus his attention on Tang Zheng, the demons all opened their eyes wide in curiosity. The sage's eyes turned as he thought that the person who came did not have good intentions. This person was definitely not a good person, and was also not Tang Zheng's accomplice. For him to insist on this question, he definitely did not have good intentions. Isn't this the same as drawing the flames of war onto Tang Zheng? Killing two birds with one stone. Before Tang Zheng could answer, Saint King answered first. "Of course it's him. We saw it with our own eyes." Saint King was quite surprised by Tang Zheng's ability to summon clouds and summon rain. Seeing the Dragon Slayer ask like this, he immediately realized that this was an excellent opportunity. Naturally, he sold out Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng smiled bitterly. Saint King's actions were clean and efficient. A second ago, he was still arguing with the Dragon Slayer, but in the next second, Saint King chose to give the Dragon Slayer a crucial piece of information. He decided to remain calm and collected and deal with all changes by sticking to the status quo. The Dragon Slayer had an as expected expression. He sized up Tang Zheng and said, "I really didn't expect that with such a little cultivation, you could actually master the ability to summon clouds and summon rain. Who taught you this?" Tang Zheng's heart moved. He very cleverly grasped the key point. The Dragon Slayer's question revealed too much information. He didn't immediately treat Tang Zheng as a member of the Dragon Clan. He only saw him summon clouds and suspected that he was related to the Dragon Clan. However, this wasn't far from his identity being exposed. There were many demons. As long as one of them pointed out that he was related to the Dragon Clan, the Dragon Slayer would definitely not let him go. The relationship between Tang Zheng and the Dragon Clan was no longer a secret. Most of the demons knew. They still didn't know the identity of the Dragon Slayer. Otherwise, they would definitely sell him out again. The current plan was to drive the demons away as soon as possible to prevent them from revealing the truth. In that case, Tang Zheng would really have no room to maneuver. Tang Zheng pretended to look at the Dragon Slayer suspiciously, but did not answer his question. Instead, he fixed his eyes on the demon and said sarcastically, "Saint King, you can't wait to answer his question. Are you trying to draw fire to me? You know who he is, and you dare to do this? We are all sensible people. This person's strength is rarely seen in this world." Even if you succeed in luring the flames of war to me, will you be safe and sound? Hee hee, your wishful thinking is too good. Don't tell me you forgot about those subordinates who just died? The series of words left Saint King speechless, and his expression kept changing. He was not surprised that Tang Zheng had seen through his not-so-clever trick. What Tang Zheng said at the end was the key. He pointed out the enormous threat of the dragon slayers, and the demons could not stay out of this. This was a blatant threat to Saint King. Saint King knew this, but he could not help but tremble with fear. The strength displayed by the dragon slayer was too strong. He had no room to resist. If they really waited for the dragon slayer to destroy Tang Zheng, then they could forget about leaving. The dragon slayer would not care whether they were demons or not. At that moment, Saint King had the intention to retreat. While the dragon slayer's attention was still on Tang Zheng, it was better to leave first. Otherwise, they would not be able to leave. In addition, such a mysterious guest appeared in this world. He should tell Ancestor Qiyu and remind him. Tang Zheng narrowed his eyes slightly, and looked at Saint King without leaving a trace. From his eyes, he could already see the clues. He was greatly relieved. His scare words had finally worked. As long as Saint King left, he could find a seemingly suitable excuse to brush off the dragon slayer. The sage gave a meaningful glance to his numerous subordinates. They all tacitly understood and retreated step by step. The dragon slayer noticed this point and looked at Tang Zheng with even more interest. He praised, "Interesting, interesting. You have a glib tongue, scaring this group of cowards." After a slight pause, the dragon slayer continued, "Haha, I think you are much more powerful than them. The people in this world are really interesting. I have a feeling that this world will be more interesting than the previous world. It will not be so boring." Tang Zheng smiled bitterly, but pretended to be surprised and asked, "You are not from our world?" Surprised? Tang Zheng nodded heavily and asked knowingly, "Where did you come from?" The dragon slayer seemed to be lost in deep memories. He said with disappointment, "Where did I come from? This seems to be a very old question. I have almost forgotten it myself." The dragon slayer did not come from a fixed place. The dragon slayer was gathered, and then gathered into a mysterious group. Furthermore, the dragon slayer traveled through many different worlds and gradually forgot where he came from. The only thing he paid attention to was killing dragons and obtaining dragon souls to strengthen himself. When Saint King heard this, he originally wanted to stay and listen for a while more to understand the dragon slayer's background. But after hearing the dragon slayer's answer, it was obvious that he did not want to say more. He might not be able to hear any useful information even if he stayed. Thus, Saint King made a prompt decision and ordered in a low voice, "Retreat." This operation had completely failed. There was no point in staying. The key was to preserve their strength. Otherwise, they would not be able to explain to Qiyu when they returned. Hearing this, Tang Zheng let out a sigh of relief. His plan had finally worked. The Saint King was scared away by him and the dragon slayer. The dragon slayer glanced at the demons who were flying away quickly from the corner of his eyes. He curled his lips and said disdainfully, "A group of scoundrels." With a light wave of his finger, countless forces shot out from his fingertips. Bang, bang, bang. The demons who fell behind were immediately hit. They did not even have time to scream before they fell from the sky like meteors and merged into the magma. Not even their bones were left. The other demons were frightened. They used all their strength and ran even faster, afraid that the dragon slayer would catch up to them. The dragon slayer did not chase after them. His target was Tang Zheng. The demons were insignificant. He treated them as entertainment, and did not need to pay too much attention to them. Tang Zheng also wanted to run, but he knew that he would not be as lucky as the demons. So he did not run. The dragon slayer looked at the indifferent Tang Zheng with interest and asked, "Why aren't you running? Are you not afraid of me?" Tang Zheng smiled bitterly and asked, "Can I escape?" The dragon slayer laughed. "You are very smart. Of course you can't escape." Tang Zheng shrugged his shoulders, pretending to be relaxed as he said, "Then it's settled." "Do you know why I am so interested in you?" the dragon slayer asked. Tang Zheng shook his head. "This is related to my question just now. Your ability to control clouds and summon rain, as well as the white clouds under your feet. Who taught you that? The Dragon Slayer's voice became a bit strict as he asked. What does this have to do with you? I want to find the person who taught you these abilities. The Dragon Slayer said without mincing words. This is a set of techniques that I accidentally found. I also don't know whose abilities they are. Naturally, I don't know who taught them to me. Tang Zheng lied without blinking. The Dragon Slayer's pupils shrank and then became gloomy. Do you think I am a 3-year-old child? Do you think I will believe your nonsense? Tang Zheng's expression did not change. He pretended to be straightforward and said, It is up to you to believe or not. In any case, I have already answered you. What is your relationship with the dragon race? The Dragon Slayer was not willing to continue probing and asked directly. Dragon race? Tang Zheng frowned. His eyes were filled with confusion, as if this was the first time he had heard of this term. The Dragon Slayer kept looking at Tang Zheng, wanting to catch some useful information from his expression. But in his eyes, Tang Zheng did not have any flaws. What he did not know was that Tang Zheng also liked to observe other people's micro-expressions the most to determine their true thoughts. So when he used deception to cross the sea, there really were no flaws. The Dragon Slayer did not find any flaws. He was suspicious. He really doesn't know the dragon race? The reason why the Dragon Clan did not directly point it out earlier was to lower Tang Zheng's guard. This was because in his opinion, Tang Zheng did not know him, nor did he know his origins, so it was impossible for him to guard against anything related to the Dragon Clan. Especially when he suddenly asked about the dragon race, Tang Zheng's reaction was the most instinctive. It was even more impossible for him to fake it. Unfortunately, he did not know that Tang Zheng had already recognized him and was guarding against him at all times. Actually, the Dragon Slayer had absolute confidence in finding the whereabouts of the dragon race. But that vague feeling of the dragon race made him very curious. He guessed that it must be some powerful dragon race who thought of a way to hide their tracks. That was why it was so ethereal in his probing. His main focus was to deal with this powerful dragon race. The more powerful the dragon race was, the more powerful the dragon soul. Then, after he slaughtered the dragon, his harvest would be even greater. He had to think of all ways to find this mysterious dragon race. So he probed Tang Zheng, hoping that he could provide some useful information. Unfortunately, Tang Zheng did not provide any valuable information, greatly disappointing the Dragon Slayer. It's a pity that you don't know the dragon race. The Dragon Slayer shook his head regretfully. Then it seems that I have to spend some effort to find it. Maybe another dragon race can provide me with something. Tang Zheng's heart jumped. The other dragon race that the Dragon Slayer was talking about was definitely the Golden Dragon. What exactly did the Golden Dragon provide him, and what was he looking for? This was a very important question. He decided to take the risk and ask, What are you looking for? A mysterious dragon race. He played a game of hide and seek with me. I haven't played a game for a long time, so he piqued my interest. This way, the process of slaughtering a dragon race will be more interesting. I'm really tired of the repetitive process of slaughtering a dragon race. A very strange expression appeared on the Dragon Slayer's face, which made Tang Zheng's heart beat wildly. What made him even more restless was that he had a feeling that the mysterious dragon race that the Dragon Slayer was talking about was not the Golden Dragon, but Tang Zheng. Chapter 1291. Tang Zheng was perplexed by the questions that popped up in his mind. He could not guess the reason behind it. But one thing was certain. The Dragon Slayer already knew of his existence. Although he did not know that the mysterious dragon was Tang Zheng, it was already very dangerous. The Dragon Slayer would not be satisfied with just finding the Golden Dragon. Instead, he would place more effort on Tang Zheng. There was no such thing as an airtight wall in the world. Tang Zheng, this surprise attack, would lose its effect. The Dragon Clan's plan of placing their hopes on him would also fail. More importantly, he was the target of the Dragon Slayer. The Dragon Slayer would definitely do everything possible to capture him. He was also connected to the dragon graveyard in the inverted Langya Pavilion. If the Dragon Slayer discovered this secret, wouldn't the dragon souls in the graveyard be in danger? When he thought of this, Tang Zheng's heart suddenly tightened. He realized the seriousness of the problem. No matter how much I calculated, the Dragon Clan still miscalculated this step. The consequences are unimaginable. I must not let the Dragon Slayer discover my identity. At least this time he must not find out. Tang Zheng silently warned himself. Seeing Tang Zheng's confused expression, the Dragon Slayer laughed strangely. You have no connection with the Dragon Clan. But unfortunately, you have the ability to summon clouds and rain. In the end, you cannot escape from the Dragon Clan. I will use you as an example, and then go find the Dragon Clan to settle the score. Tang Zheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. The other party thought that he was not a dragon and still wanted to kill the innocent. The Dragon Slayer was indeed not a good person. Tang Zheng was not prepared to sit and wait for death. He said, I am alone and weak, but I will not be trampled on by others. Is that so? Can the resistance of an ant be called resistance? You can't even make a splash. What's the use? Tang Zheng coldly snorted. A great battle was unavoidable. He would definitely not admit defeat. Thus he struck first to gain the initiative. He was very worried that once the Dragon Slayer attacked first, he might not have the chance to attack anymore. Tang Zheng did not attack the Dragon Slayer himself. He was not the Dragon Slayer's opponent. If he rushed over, he would only be a sheep in a tiger's den. Azura, kill him! Tang Zheng roared, and the Shura immediately appeared. Its colossal body looked down at the Dragon Slayer. And the Shura blade appeared with a whoosh, chopping down at the Dragon Slayer. Although Shura was injured by the Fornax formation, in this life and death situation, Tang Zheng couldn't care less. Moreover, Dragon Slayers didn't know the Fornax formation. The best way to deal with the Dragon Slayer was to summon the Shura. The Dragon Slayer exclaimed and looked at the Shura in surprise. As for the Shura blade that fell from the sky, he didn't give it a second look. When the Azura blade was about to land on his head, the Dragon Slayer stretched out his hand and waved it casually, as if he was dealing with a demon. However, it was not so easy this time. The Azura saber shook slightly, but it deviated from its original direction and continued to slash down as usual. Whoosh! The air was torn apart, and the Yin energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings. It was as though it was capable of shredding anything and everything around the Azura's saber. The Dragon Slayer's eyes immediately lit up. He tapped his finger on the blade, but his finger was unscathed. Bang! The Azura blade was sent flying. The Dragon Slayer was unscathed. The Shura's eyes shone fiercely. After being injured by the Fornax formation, he had a stomach full of anger. Now that he encountered the Dragon Slayer, his ferocious nature was completely stimulated. Kill! The Shura roared, and the Azura blade suddenly enlarged. Dense Yin-Chi wrapped around the Azura blade, transforming into ferocious ghost heads. When the Azura blade slashed down again, the ghost heads let out shrill screams that shook one's soul. If a normal person heard this, they would have been scared out of their wits. The Dragon Slayer only frowned slightly and said angrily, Filthy thing, you dare to challenge me? You are courting death. Today I will make your soul scatter. Bang! He tapped his finger on one of the ghost heads. The ghost head opened its black mouth and let out a shrill scream. In the next second, it exploded. The Dragon Slayer's finger tapped rapidly, leaving behind afterimages in the air. The ghost heads exploded one after another, and soon disappeared. The Shura didn't stop. The Azura blade slashed down as usual, aiming for the Dragon Slayer's head. Child's play. The Dragon Slayer said disdainfully. He leaped and actually took the initiative to attack. All of this happened in a flash. The Shura and the Dragon Slayer were both extremely fast. When the two had already exchanged a few blows, Tang Zheng finally had time to order the Somersault Cloud. Somersault Cloud, bring them home immediately. The faster the better. Sister Mei Li Xiaotian, go home. Don't come back. Tang Zheng hurriedly instructed his children. The two girls immediately knew what Tang Zheng was thinking and quickly shook their heads. We won't go. But it was no longer up to them. The Somersault Cloud flew into the distance with a whoosh. No. The two girls shouted. Tears flowed out of Lu Qingmei's eyes, like pearls hanging on her fair cheeks. Li Xiaotian had always been strong, but she was still affected. Her eyes were wet, and there were obvious sparkling tears. This bravery of sacrificing oneself to save others moved everyone involved. Lu Qingmei leaped, trying to jump off the somersault cloud and return to help Tang Zheng. Instead, she did not jump up. Her feet seemed to have taken root on the somersault cloud, and were firmly connected to it. No matter how she struggled, it was useless. Li Xiaotian also tried to break free from the somersault cloud, but in the end, she also failed. The somersault cloud had received Tang Zheng's order to bring the two back safely. Naturally, it would not let them leave its side. The two girls knew that this was the somersault cloud's doing. Lu Qingmei sobbed and begged, "Somersault cloud, let me go back. I want to help him. How can we leave him at this critical moment?" Li Xiaotian also chimed in. "Yes, if we die together. What's the point of running away? I, Li Xiaotian, am not such a person." The somersault cloud did not respond to the two girls and did not slow down. After a while, they could no longer see Tang Zheng's figure as it disappeared into the horizon. No matter how the two girls begged, the somersault cloud turned a deaf ear and was indifferent. Tang Zheng watched as the somersault cloud disappeared from his sight. Finally, he heaved a sigh of relief. He did not care if he died, but the people around him must be fine. Perhaps this was sacrificing oneself to save others. Humans were strange animals. Humans all wanted to live, but sometimes they would rather die to save others. Perhaps this was the difference between humans and animals. Emotions were one of the factors that maintained human nature. His feelings for Lu Qingmei were unquestionable. As for Li Xiaotian, at least he was a friend. Sacrificing himself to save the two of them, he felt that this was a good deal. It was not very noble. It was just that he was willing to do so. It was that simple. Of course, the Dragon Slayer saw the two of them flying away, and had no intention of stopping them. His target was Tang Zheng, and he did not pay much attention to other unrelated people, just like how the Demon Clan had left earlier. Although the Azura had temporarily delayed the Dragon Slayer, Tang Zheng knew that he could not leave safely like the others. If he left, the Dragon Slayer would definitely chase after him without a care for his own safety. Kill. Seeing that the battle between the Dragon Slayer and the Azura was getting more and more intense, Tang Zheng roared and bravely rushed towards the Dragon Slayer. Since he was going to die, he would choose to die a heroic death and not be a coward. The Dragon Slayer was surprised by Tang Zheng's choice, the corner of his mouth raised, and said disdainfully, "You do have some guts, but you're just a reckless man. You can't even withstand a single blow." The Dragon Slayer repelled the Azura with one move and faced Tang Zheng head-on. Tang Zheng did not have his heaven-shocking bow and shooting sun arrows, so he simply used his hands to attack. However, his hands were different from ordinary people's hands. Two black holes appeared in his palms. Sky swallowing technique. Yes, he had used the sky swallowing technique. He had just felt the power of the sky swallowing technique, so when he attacked with his bare hands, he decisively chose this sacred art. Not only did the sky swallowing technique have the ability to move mountains, it also had the ability to swallow, absorb and devour souls. As for whether or not it would be effective against the Dragon Slayer, Tang Zheng did not know. He would have to try it first to know. The Dragon Slayer did not put Tang Zheng in his eyes at all. He lightly extended a hand and pushed his palm forward, causing an earth-shattering power to surge out. Bang! A muffled sound exploded in the air. However, Tang Zheng did not fly out. He crossed his palms, and the two black holes in his palms merged, forming a new black hole in front of him. Whoosh whoosh. The surrounding air was instantly sucked into the black hole, as if it was creating a vacuum. Tang Zheng used all of his skills and activated all of his innate qi. The power of the sky swallowing technique was extremely strong. The majestic power pushed out by the Dragon Slayer was like air, hovering in front of the black hole for a while. The black hole trembled violently, but it still held on. The black hole suddenly exerted force, and the majestic power followed in the footsteps of the air, and was actually sucked in. Strange. The Dragon Slayer clicked his tongue in wonder, and raised his eyebrows. He did not expect this result at all. Tang Zheng was also very surprised by this result. The sky swallowing technique was actually effective and neutralized the opponent's attack. However, he was not too optimistic. The Dragon Slayer obviously did not use his full strength in this attack. The sky swallowing technique could neutralize this attack, but it did not mean that it could neutralize the following attacks. Without a doubt, the Dragon Slayer's following attacks would be even stronger. The Dragon Slayer did not have much time to be surprised, nor did he have the opportunity to immediately counterattack Tang Zheng. The Azura's attack came unexpectedly again. The Dragon Slayer had to divert his attention to deal with the Azura. In the distance, Granny Lee and the rest were watching this battle with pale faces. Their eyeballs were about to fall to the ground. When she saw the somersault cloud carrying the two girls away, Granny Lee wanted to chase after it, grab Li Xiaotian, and take the somersault cloud. However, looking at the somersault cloud's terrifying speed, she reluctantly gave up on this idea. They could not catch up at all. This was an extravagant hope. At this moment, seeing that Tang Zheng actually took the Dragon Slayer's attack, their expressions were even more interesting. If it were them, they would definitely not be able to take this attack. They would only end up like the other demons and die on the spot. They had to admit that Tang Zheng was much stronger than them. There was no suspense about Tang Zheng's death. If they stayed any longer, they would not be able to leave after the Dragon Slayer killed Tang Zheng. If they did not leave now, when would they? Let's go! Chapter 1292. Tang Zheng and Azura cooperated well, and attacked the Dragon Slayer from the front and back. Although the Dragon Slayer was angry, his counterattack was methodical and fierce. The power of the swallowing sky technique was unparalleled, especially when swallowing, absorbing, and devouring souls were used interchangeably. The Dragon Slayer had already seen the power of the swallowing sky technique and stopped underestimating it. He stared at the black hole with burning eyes and asked, "What kind of ability is this?" "Swallowing sky technique," Tang Zheng said decisively. The Dragon Slayer's heart skipped a beat and his expression changed slightly. He said coldly, "It's really famous. Swallowing sky technique, arrogant. Can it really swallow the heavens?" Tang Zheng ignored the Dragon Slayer's sarcasm and doubt, and said without changing his expression, "What's the use of saying so much useless words? If you have the ability, break my swallowing sky technique." After seeing the actual combat strength of the swallowing sky technique, it had already dissolved 3 of the Dragon Slayer's attacks. Immediately, Tang Zheng regained a bit of confidence. The Dragon Slayer's expression became even more unsightly. Being rebutted by Tang Zheng undoubtedly made him furious. "Then I'll destroy you. No matter what relationship you have with the Dragon Clan, it's no longer important. I'll find the Dragon Clan and make you disappear from this world." After the Dragon Slayer finished speaking, he waved his hand and a violent force flew out from his 5 fingers. Azura and Tang Zheng were fully alert and ready to attack. After seeing this scene, they both launched a counterattack. The Azura blade danced in the air and a cold wind blew, slashing over like a ghost wailing and a wolf howling. Tang Zheng crossed his palms and a large black hole appeared in front of him. Whoosh whoosh. The air was sucked into the black hole again. When Tang Zheng pushed with his palms, the black hole flew towards the Dragon Slayer. The Dragon Slayer had experience and didn't get close to the black hole. Just now he was almost sucked in by the black hole. Not only was his cultivation power affected, but even his soul was swaying. This was the feeling he had just experienced, so he didn't dare to take the risk again. The Dragon Slayer was also somewhat afraid of these abilities. Therefore, although he looked disdainful of the swallowing sky technique on the surface, he actually valued it quite a bit. This was an extremely rare set of cultivation techniques. The Dragon Slayer's violent energy shot out from his fingertips, and Tang Zheng quickly raised his hands. Black Hole seemed to have a telepathic connection, and it also leaped up and blocked in front of Tang Zheng. Whoosh! The 2 forces were sucked into the black hole, but the other force made a feint and struck Tang Zheng's abdomen from below at a tricky angle. Bang! As if he was struck by lightning, he flew backwards and crashed into the hard rocks of Mount Buzhou. His clothes were torn, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His chaotic Vajra spell had already reached large success, and his body was as tough as steel. Although he did not shatter into pieces, his skin was still green and purple, as if it had been dyed with color. There was a pool of blood left on the ground. The contrast between the dark red blood and the pure white snow was very strong, stimulating people's nerves. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at the two sides fighting fiercely, his mood fluctuating. Although he had already made up his mind to fight to the death, when he truly felt wave after wave of powerful attacks from the other side, he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. The Dragon Slayer was indeed powerful. No wonder the Dragon Clan was in danger of being exterminated. The Dragon Slayer was indeed too powerful. The heaven-swallowing method could not truly do anything to him. At most, it would only give him a little more trouble. Roar! A loud sound interrupted his thoughts. The Azura roared towards the sky, his anger overflowing from his words. The Azura blade had been destroyed by the Dragon Slayer at some point in time. Although the Azura blade was condensed from Yin Qi and was still regenerating, looking at the broken Azura blade, the Azura was still unable to restrain his anger. Kill! The Azura roared again, and the broken blade was reborn, once again transforming into the original appearance of the Azura blade. However, when the Azura blade fell from the sky, the Dragon Slayer extended two fingers and actually caught the Azura blade. That surging power was actually unable to do anything to those two seemingly weak fingers. The corners of the Dragon Slayer's mouth curled up slightly as he said, "In the end, it is difficult for a filthy thing to enter the Hall of Elegance." Crack! The Azura blade once again broke into two pieces in the hands of the Dragon Slayer. The Dragon Slayer held onto half of the Azura blade, flipped his fingers, and aimed the Azura blade at the Azura. Puff! The Azura blade directly pierced into the Azura's body. The Azura widened his eyes in disbelief. He was actually injured by his own weapon. Ah! He roared towards the sky, his anger unbearable. The Dragon Slayer held half of the Azura blade in his hand. Suddenly, the Azura blade became blurry. In an instant it turned into a wisp of Yin Qi, merging into one with the Azura. Although the Azura blade was a part of the Azura's body, when the Azura blade pierced into his body, the Azura was still injured. In the world of spirits and souls, the Azura and the Dizong of Goguryeo had fought for so long, and it was difficult to tell who had the upper hand. In the end, the Dizong of Goguryeo did not destroy him. However, in the hands of the Dragon Slayer, the Azura suffered such a huge loss. For the first time in his life, he felt the danger of death. One could imagine how he felt. The Azura not only gained wisdom from the Ksitigarbha Sutra, but his cultivation also improved by leaps and bounds. In the past, he was only one step away from the Mahayana realm. This was also one of the areas where the Dizong of Goguryeo was more powerful than him. The Dizong of Goguryeo achieved great mastery of his divine power, and became a Buddha on the spot. He broke through to the Mahayana realm. The Mahayana realm and the Soul Formation realm did not seem far away, but the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. After the Azura crossed this threshold, he was trapped by the Fornax formation before he could display the corresponding strength. He was seriously injured, and his combat strength was greatly reduced. Now that he was facing the Dragon Slayer, how could he be a match for him? One had to know that the Dragon Slayer's cultivation was extraordinary. He had absorbed countless dragon souls, and had long been an expert in the Mahayana realm. The difference between the two sides was so great that there was not much suspense about the outcome. Even so, the Azura could not calm the anger in his heart. His painful roar came to an abrupt end, and he grabbed the Dragon Slayer with both hands. His fingernails grew, and they were black and flashed with shocking Yin Qi. The Dragon Slayer curled his lips in disdain, and his fingers fell like a blade. Poof! Both of the Azura's palms were cut in the middle. The cut was extremely smooth, and no blood flowed out. Only waves of Yin Qi spread out from the wound. The Azura howled in pain again and staggered back. Although the Azura's limbs could be regenerated, this kind of pain was still unbearable. Tang Zheng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and was about to step forward to help the Azura again. However, before he could take a step, a voice sounded in his mind. "Thank you for helping me avoid a disaster. The kindness of a drop of blood will be repaid with a gushing spring. I will help you defeat the enemy." This voice was very sudden, causing Tang Zheng to not know what to do. Who was it that ran into his head? This thought flashed through his mind, but he rejected it. It was not someone who ran into his head, but a voice that only he could hear. That was because the inner demons were not abnormal at all, which proved that the inner demons did not hear this voice. At this critical moment, such a mysterious voice appeared. His whole body tensed up, and he asked warily, "Who are you?" The other party did not seem to be hostile, and instead said that he would help him. Tang Zheng was confused. As for the other party saying that Tang Zheng had saved him, Tang Zheng was even more confused and did not know what to do. The inner demons were the first to notice Tang Zheng's abnormality, and asked in surprise, "Why are you so surprised?" Tang Zheng did not comment, and quietly waited for the mysterious voice to answer. "I am the guardian spirit of Mount Buzhou." The voice was neither sad nor happy and calmly replied. Tang Zheng was shocked, and stared at the cliff of Mount Buzhou in shock. Mount Buzhou had a guardian spirit? This was something unheard of. Whether it was Qi Yu, the inner demons, or the 100 Faces Star-Lord who had been trapped on Mount Buzhou for countless years, none of them had mentioned this. For a moment, Tang Zheng could not distinguish the authenticity of this voice. Since Mount Buzhou has a guardian spirit, why didn't you do anything when Mount Buzhou was about to collapse? Tang Zheng asked warily. The guardian spirit sighed deeply and said, "I wasn't indifferent. The lava was constantly corroding Mount Buzhou, and its foundation was damaged. I was resisting the lava's power with great difficulty. If I hadn't vowed to fight to the death, Mount Buzhou would have collapsed long ago." After a pause, the guardian spirit added, "Of course, this was all thanks to your help. If you hadn't turned the tide in the end, Mount Buzhou would have been in danger." Tang Zheng muttered inwardly, "Since you, the guardian spirit, couldn't even protect Mount Buzhou, how could you stop me from repelling the dragon slayers?" One had to know that the dragon slayers were so powerful that they could completely crush the Saint King and the other demons. The two sides were on completely different levels. The enemy is too powerful. You might not be his match. Tang Zheng reminded worriedly. The guardian spirit was not worried at all. On the contrary, it said confidently, "If it was any other place, I wouldn't be able to do much and wouldn't be able to do anything to him. But this is Mount Buzhou. The divine power of Mount Buzhou will be used by me to repel the enemy." The divine power of Mount Buzhou? Tang Zheng opened his eyes wide. Yes, Mount Buzhou is a divine mountain. Since ancient times, it has always possessed supreme divine power. It's just that it doesn't show itself, so most people don't know about it. The guardian spirit explained. Divine mountains are different from ordinary mountains. They are protected by guardian spirits to prevent them from being damaged. It is my responsibility to protect Mount Buzhou. The expression in Tang Zheng's eyes kept changing, as this was something new. Whether or not this voice is true, I've already become like this. Defeat is certain. I might as well try everything I can and see what method he has to help me escape. Tang Zheng made up his mind. He took a deep breath and asked, "How will you help me?" "I'll give you the divine power of Mount Buzhou," the guardian spirit said in an earth-shattering voice. Tang Zheng thought that the guardian spirit would appear and use its power to repel the dragon slayers. He didn't expect that it would give Tang Zheng the divine power of Mount Buzhou. What kind of divine power does Mount Buzhou have? Tang Zheng's eyes were filled with darkness, but he was excited. After all, Mount Buzhou was a divine mountain that connected two worlds. He didn't know how powerful the divine power it contained was. He couldn't help but be filled with endless anticipation. Hearing Tang Zheng's question, the guardian spirit deliberately kept him in suspense. The divine power of Mount Buzhou is extraordinary. You'll know when you experience it. Chapter 1293. After hearing the protector's words, Tang Zheng was still very confused. What exactly was the so-called divine power of Mount Buzhou? He was completely clueless. Before he could ask, Mount Buzhou glowed faintly. The white snow that had been melted by the high temperature of the magma melted even faster. It was like a person taking off his outer clothes and revealing his true body. Under the white snow, a dark skin was revealed, like a person's black skin. However, this was the skin of Mount Buzhou. There was a profound meaning to those patches of black, which inadvertently attracted people's gazes. Tang Zheng stared without blinking, witnessing everything. The Shura and the Dragon Slayer were still fighting, and did not notice the abnormality of Mount Buzhou. Whoosh whoosh. A gust of wind blew through the mountain. This gust of wind was less cold than usual, and had more warmth. This gust of wind wrapped around Tang Zheng, as if it was giving Tang Zheng a coat. His pupils shrank as he had a strange feeling. This is, don't speak, quietly feel the divine power of Mount Buzhou. The protector reminded. Tang Zheng hurriedly abandoned all distracting thoughts and guarded his mind, focusing all of his attention on feeling the little changes. This Mount Buzhou seems to have changed. What kind of fortuitous encounter did this kid have? The inner demons did not know what was going on, but they could see some clues. Tang Zheng was not in the mood to answer the inner demon's question. He was the person involved and had experienced it firsthand. After the gust of wind wrapped around him, he slowly rose up. He wasn't flying in the air, but the wind was lifting him up. The wind blew into his body from every cell. He was like a balloon that was about to be filled by this gust of wind. This gust of wind had no intention of stopping. It flowed through his meridians and merged perfectly with his true qi. My true qi has become stronger. Tang Zheng was incredulous and opened his eyes wide. Is this the effect of the divine power of Mount Buzhou? This was indeed the divine power of Mount Buzhou. It merged perfectly with Tang Zheng's true qi without any signs of rejection. True qi was like a river flowing into the sea, merging into each other. You have me in you, and I have you in me. Shua. A beam of light shot out from Tang Zheng's eyes, as if it could pierce through everything. However, this phenomenon did not continue. After the divine power circulated in the meridians for 9 cycles, it completely disappeared without a trace. His Zhenqi also returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. However, Tang Zheng had an intuition that something had changed in his body. It was just that he hadn't noticed it yet. Boom. Like a cannonball, the Azura was hit by the Dragon Slayer and crashed into Mount Buzhou, not far from Tang Zheng. Shura lay on the dark rock in a sorry state and struggled to get up. He already understood that he was definitely not a match for the Dragon Slayer, but the prideful him did not give up. The Dragon Slayer looked down from above and flew over with the attitude of a victor. He looked down at his 2 opponents with contempt. Hee, you want to challenge me with this little bit of strength? The Dragon Slayer's disdainful tone made the Azura fly into a rage. He wanted to rush over and fight back. On the contrary, the Dragon Slayer's attack was even faster. He arrived in the blink of an eye and punched the Azura's chest. Once again, there was a loud bang and rocks flew everywhere. Half of the Azura's body sank into the rock. He struggled for a while, but he couldn't break free. Roar, roar. The Azura roared at the sky, but there was nothing he could do. Your vitality is really tenacious. Let's see how long you can last. The Dragon Slayer was very confident, and did not take the Azura seriously at all. As for Tang Zheng, he did not take advantage of the situation to attack. There was no need for that. After dealing with the Azura, this big problem, Tang Zheng was a piece of cake. He could do whatever he wanted with him. Punch after punch. The Azura roared incessantly, mixed with pain. There were already a few holes on his body. There was no blood, but wisps of yin qi lingered around the holes and flowed out of the Azura's body like fresh blood. Once the yin qi was completely drained, the Azura would cease to exist. Yin qi was his foundation. Tang Zheng knew this very well. After seeing this scene, how could he just sit there and do nothing? He placed his hands on the hard rock. Whoosh! Like an arrow leaving the bow, Tang Zheng flew out. His speed was far beyond his expectations. This was much faster than his original speed. The Dragon Slayer had a general understanding of Tang Zheng's attack, so he did not care about his counterattack. However, Tang Zheng gave him a huge surprise. The Dragon Slayer blinked in disbelief, and Tang Zheng was already in front of him. Tang Zheng's reaction speed was very fast. After noticing the change in his speed, he immediately made a corresponding change. He pushed his palms forward, and the 2 black holes in his palms intersected. A huge black hole was like a big mouth, about to swallow the Dragon Slayer. Bang! The black hole imprinted on the Dragon Slayer's body. The Dragon Slayer let out a low roar, and felt the power in his body rapidly flowing out. Even his soul seemed to be trembling, and was about to leave him. He was not surprised by this. He was only angry. His anger was overflowing, as if he wanted to ignite the air. Do you really think this little trick can deal with me? The Dragon Slayer was furious. He activated all the power in his body. Boom! A huge rebounding force acted on the black hole. In an instant, it actually suppressed the attractive force of the black hole. The Dragon Slayer's legs seemed to be installed with springs. With a whoosh he flew out, increasing the distance between him and Tang Zheng. How did your strength change so much? The Dragon Slayer asked, still in shock. This was indeed shocking. In just a short while a person's strength could change so much. It was rare. The Dragon Slayer had traveled through many worlds. He had seen many things, but he had never encountered such a strange thing. Could it be that he had deliberately hidden his strength before? Then he tried to kill him in one strike and get rid of him directly? The Dragon Slayer's mind was occupied by this thought. He believed that this was the reason. Thus he became alert. His opponent was not as simple and weak as he thought. The Dragon Slayer had always been confident in his own strength. However, his opponent could escape from his fiery golden eyes. Just this point alone made the Dragon Slayer dare not underestimate him. This is really an accident. It's not as boring as I thought. The Dragon Slayer licked his lips. He was full of interest and murderous intent. Tang Zheng was also very surprised by his own changes. This was definitely the change brought by the mountain god power that the guardian spirit mentioned. He could not suppress the joy in his heart. The corners of his mouth curled up. There was a chance of survival in a situation of certain death. Spring came to the withered tree. The willows darkened and the flowers brightened. His confidence increased. He raised his head and looked straight at the Dragon Slayer. He said meaningfully, "The best part is yet to come." The provocation was too strong. The Dragon Slayer obviously could not bear it. His figure flashed and he raised his hand. A bright light exploded from his hand. Tang Zheng narrowed his eyes slightly. He finally saw the true appearance of this light. A long whip. Tang Zheng was not unfamiliar with this long whip. Back then, in the illusion, he saw the Dragon Slayer use this whip to kill a dragon. From this, it could be seen how powerful this long whip was. Using a dragon whip to deal with you is really using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. The Dragon Slayer said disdainfully. Tang Zheng's heart shivered. Just now, when the Dragon Slayer was dealing with the Azura, he only used his hands. Now he was actually using a treasure. The strength of that could be imagined. Tang Zheng could not help but be deeply worried. Would the so-called divine power be able to withstand the dragon whip? Do you know what this dragon whip is made of? The Dragon Slayer seemed to want to show off and asked proudly. Before Tang Zheng could ask, the Dragon Slayer said, "This is a treasure made of more than 10 dragon tendons mixed together after 100 days of forging." Dragon tendons. Tang Zheng trembled. His eyes burned as he stared at the dragon whip. This long whip was actually made of so many dragon tendons. In other words, it was formed from the lives of more than 10 dragons. The Dragon Slayer used the dragon whip to slaughter the dragons. He was afraid that even the dead dragons would not be able to rest in peace. It was truly abominable. The dragon tendons are indeed good things. Although they are a little inferior to the dragon soul, they are still good materials for refining treasures. The Dragon Slayer showed off. This dragon whip has always only killed dragons. It has never killed humans. You are the first one. You should feel honored. The Dragon Slayer pointed at Tang Zheng. His eyes flickered with sparks, as if he was angry that he had to use the dragon whip. He was really angry. This was an easy task, but there were unexpected changes. An inconspicuous little character actually hid so deeply. It made him a little afraid. Tang Zheng also became alert. He did not think that the Dragon Slayer was showing off. The other party was telling the truth. Pa! The Dragon Slayer's wrist shook. With the sound of a whip, it tore through the air. In the next second, the dragon whip was in front of him. Its speed was so fast that it was almost impossible to see it with the naked eye. However, Tang Zheng was different. At this moment, in his eyes, the traces of the dragon whip were very clear, as if it was moving in slow motion. This was a very strange experience. Tang Zheng knew that with his skills, he would definitely not be able to do this. Without a doubt, this was definitely the effect of Mount Buzhou's godly power. This effect could not be seen or touched. In fact, even he could not feel it. However, in a real battle, it really played a huge role. He actually dodged it. The Dragon Slayer was surprised. Even dragons might not be able to dodge this attack of his, but this kid actually dodged it so easily. What the hell? Immediately, the Dragon Slayer became more vigilant against Tang Zheng. His wrist shook anxiously. Pa pa pa. The dragon whip intertwined in mid-air, forming a shadow. It was impossible to distinguish which was the real attack. Tang Zheng's vision blurred. Those shadows intertwined, but none of their trajectories could escape Tang Zheng's eyes. Attack. The guardian spirit's voice suddenly sounded in his ears. Tang Zheng was quick-witted, and like the most agile fish, he shuttled through the large net, completely ignoring the feints and dodging the real attacks one after another, dangerously arriving in front of the Dragon Slayer. The Dragon Whip's attacks all missed. Chapter 1294. The Dragon Slayer looked at Tang Zheng, who was standing in front of him in shock. A black hole suddenly enlarged in his eyes and imprinted itself on his chest. One reading? Vast amounts of energy poured out of the Dragon Slayer's body, like flowing water. At the same time, his mind was agitated and his soul swayed as if it was about to collapse. Stop! The Dragon Slayer experienced the taste of the sky-swallowing technique, and broke out in cold sweat as he shouted loudly. How could Tang Zheng stop? Pa! The dragon whip in his hand shook violently, and whip flowers appeared out of thin air, flying towards Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng swayed his body left and right in an attempt to dodge the whip flowers, successfully dodging them one after another. Before he could breathe a sigh of relief, another whip flower suddenly appeared behind Tang Zheng. This whip flower seemed to have appeared out of thin air, so much so that it appeared behind Tang Zheng in his blind spot. He did not notice it at all. Be careful. When the Shura saw this, he hurriedly cried out in alarm. Bang! Tang Zheng was still sent flying. The sky-swallowing technique had lost its effect, and the Dragon Slayer was temporarily free. He gasped for breath and looked at Tang Zheng in shock, asking sternly, "How did you do all this?" Tang Zheng crawled up from the ground and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He was unwilling to accept this. The sky-swallowing technique had already taken effect, but he was still hit by the other party and thus interrupted. Although Mount Buzhou's divine power was powerful, it also had its shortcomings. The guardian spirit's voice sounded again. This person's strength is extraordinary. You must be extremely careful. Tang Zheng nodded inwardly and looked at the Dragon Slayer with a burning gaze. Don't you have a pair of eyes? Heh, can't you see how I did it? His tone was mixed with sarcasm, causing the Dragon Slayer's anger to rise. I'm fighting. Let's see how long you can hide. Your divine ability might not necessarily be effective. Didn't you take one of my attacks? The Dragon Slayer's confidence increased greatly. Tang Zheng's expression became unnatural, but he did not retreat. Instead, he stepped forward and said, "Then let's compete again and see who will win." Even so, Tang Zheng was not in a hurry to attack. Although the best defense was offense, his offensive power was lacking. On the other hand, defense was the most effective. He could take advantage of the opponent's unpreparedness to find the opponent's weakness and attack. The Dragon Slayer didn't know about Tang Zheng's weakness, so he attacked Tang Zheng again without saying anything. The whip shadows and whip flowers were released together. The whip shadows were like tree branches, and the whip flowers were like blooming flowers on the branches. They complemented each other, and their power was definitely not to be underestimated. The air around Tang Zheng was completely torn apart by the Dragon Whip's attack, so much so that not even the air could pass through. Tang Zheng held his breath and concentrated. In his eyes, all the attacks were once again methodically displayed. Both real and fake, everything could be seen at a glance. That was because he had learned his lesson. Even if there was a blind spot behind him, he could still take care of it. It seemed that with the previous experience, he was even more relaxed this time. He skillfully moved his steps and casually avoided the double attack of the whip shadows and whip flowers. Tang Zheng closed in on the dragon slayer again. He pushed out his palms and a black hole immediately appeared, quickly enlarging in the dragon slayer's eyes. Why is it like this again? The dragon slayer's eyes were red with anxiety. His cultivation was clearly much higher than Tang Zheng's, so why couldn't he do anything to him? Instead, he was forced into a corner. Damn it, I don't believe it. The dragon slayer tiptoed and quickly retreated. The dragon whip followed him like a shadow, interweaving into a solid defense in front of him like an iron wall. Tang Zheng's eyes flashed. He still broke through the defense and closed in on the dragon slayer again. The black hole that was getting bigger and bigger approached the dragon slayer. The dragon slayer cried out in despair and soared into the air, finally dodging Tang Zheng's attack. Both sides were attacking. The dragon slayer missed time and time again, but Tang Zheng was fast and accurate. Although each attack did not cause too much damage to the dragon slayer, he was still unable to endure it. He was almost on the verge of collapse. One reading? This was something that no one could endure. His cultivation was clearly higher than his opponent's, but he was always at a disadvantage and his counterattacks were ineffective. The dragon slayer had never felt so sullen before. He condescendingly stared at Tang Zheng and asked, "Just who are you? How can you avoid my attacks?" This was something that even the dragon clan could not do, but a person who was not very strong could do it. This was too strange. Tang Zheng could not hide his joy. Although he did not truly injure the dragon slayer, he had successfully stopped the other's attack. This was equivalent to another kind of victory. He did not answer the dragon slayer's question, but took the chance to ask the guardian spirit, "Since Mount Buzhou's divine power is so strong, can you help me kill this person?" The dragon slayer was a great worry in the end. It was like a sword hanging over his and the golden dragon's heads. He did not know when this sword would fall down. It was just too dangerous. If there was a chance, he naturally wanted to eliminate the dragon slayer and get rid of this great worry. The guardian spirit said, "No, Mount Buzhou's divine power is limited. This is already the greatest help. It will be very difficult to kill this person. Moreover, Mount Buzhou's foundation was damaged when fighting against the lava, so its divine power was greatly reduced. In addition, this divine power is only effective within Mount Buzhou. Once you leave Mount Buzhou, the divine power will disappear and cannot help you." Hearing this, Tang Zheng was greatly disappointed. He thought that the divine power was very powerful, but it had so many restrictions. It could not pose a substantial threat to the dragon slayer. This divine power was more of a deterrent, so that the dragon slayer could not figure out Tang Zheng's patrol, and did not dare to act rashly. If the two sides were in a deadlock, the dragon slayer would definitely retreat without a fight. Tang Zheng was disappointed, but he did not show it. Instead, he hooked his finger and looked provocatively at the dragon slayer, saying, "Why did you run away? Didn't you say that you wanted to kill me? I'm right here. Come on." The dragon slayer's expression kept changing. He stared unblinkingly at Tang Zheng, as if he wanted to see through him. But in the end, he had no choice but to give up. He could indeed see that Tang Zheng's cultivation was not high. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. But the truth was that he could not do anything to Tang Zheng. Instead, he was forced into a difficult situation. This contrast made him feel quite embarrassed. The dragon slayer gritted his teeth. He wanted nothing more than to charge down again and teach Tang Zheng a lesson. But in the end, he gave up on this idea. He had already tried twice. There was no need to try a third time. He was a proud person. Twice was enough to reach an unquestionable conclusion. Seeing that the dragon slayer did not move at all and did not attack again, Tang Zheng heaved a sigh of relief. The dragon slayer was indeed afraid of him. This was too unexpected. Although the divine power of Mount Buzhou can't hurt him, it can still protect you. So you don't need to worry. The guardian spirit comforted. Tang Zheng was greatly relieved. The Shura looked at Tang Zheng with an expression that said, "Are you kidding me?" He was very clear about Tang Zheng's strength. He was also shocked by Tang Zheng's move. If Tang Zheng did not use the Ksitigarbha Sutra, he could not even defeat the Shura. How could he defeat the dragon slayer so easily? This was too strange. The inner demons had similar thoughts. However, he was smarter than the Shura. He immediately realized that there was a reason for Tang Zheng's change. "Young man, did you have some kind of fortuitous encounter?" The inner demon's question made Tang Zheng's lips curve into an unfathomable smile. He replied, "Have you guessed anything?" The inner demons resentfully said, "How could I guess?" Tang Zheng's heart moved. The inner demons knew a thing or two about Mount Buzhou. However, they did not know that Mount Buzhou had a guardian spirit. They also did not know about the so-called divine power of Mount Buzhou. It seemed that this was a secret. There was no need to tell the inner demons. Tang Zheng smiled mysteriously and said, "You can't guess because there was no fortuitous encounter. It was just a coincidence that scared the Dragon Slayer." Scared? The inner demons shouted. "How is that possible? The Dragon Slayer is not an idiot. I am not blind. Just now, it was you who used your true ability to dodge the opponent's heavy attacks. You made the Dragon Slayer feel helpless. Do you think that was done by luck?" Tang Zheng did not deny or admit. This made the inner demon's heart move. Suspicion rose in his heart, and he also had a trace of fear. In the past, he was not really afraid of Tang Zheng. That was because Tang Zheng was too transparent. There were not many secrets to speak of. But this time, the situation had completely changed. Tang Zheng really did have a secret. Moreover, it was a huge secret that could not be underestimated. A secret that was enough to make the Dragon Slayer feel fear. The inner demons did not think that they were stronger than the Dragon Slayer. Especially now that he was just a soul, there was no way he could be compared to the Dragon Slayer. The Dragon Slayer was in the Mahayana realm. This was without a doubt. As for what level of Mahayana he was, this was something that could not be seen at the moment. But this was no longer important. In any case, the inner demons were no match for the Dragon Slayer. Unless they returned to their previous peak state, they would not be afraid of the Dragon Slayer at all. Seeing that the inner demons did not insist on getting to the bottom of the matter, Tang Zheng heaved a sigh of relief. His deliberately mystifying plan had succeeded. He did not care about the little thoughts of the inner demons. His gaze turned cold as he stared at the Dragon Slayer. He was full of confidence and did not have the slightest fear. The Dragon Slayer's eyes flickered. He glared fiercely at Tang Zheng, his eyes full of unwillingness. Before he could even find the Dragon Clan, he was tricked by a human. This time, it seemed that things were not going well. The Dragon Slayer was a smart person. He was not an indecisive person. After thinking that there was no way to break through Tang Zheng's strange defense, he decided to get down to business first. Perhaps after absorbing the dragon soul of this world's Dragon Clan, and finding the hidden Dragon Clan, his cultivation might be able to improve further. At that time, the situation would probably be reversed. It would not be too late to deal with this kid then. No matter what, he would definitely get back at him this time. "Kid, I have business to do. This time, I will spare your life. In the future, I will come and take your life." The Dragon Slayer did not show any fear. He thought that he was right and said ruthlessly. However, to Tang Zheng, this sentence was clearly admitting defeat. He actually used the power of Mount Buzhou to force the Dragon Slayer to retreat. Moreover, this was forcing him to retreat without a fight. This was more difficult than actually defeating the opponent. Chapter 1295. After the Dragon Slayer said these harsh words, he turned and left. Just like how he came, he disappeared into the horizon in the blink of an eye. 1. Reading a book? Tang Zheng still hadn't come back to his senses. He stared blankly in the direction the Dragon Slayer disappeared in. After a while, he confirmed that the Dragon Slayer wasn't deliberately mystifying him. Only then did he sit down on the ground and take deep breaths. This time he had really escaped death. He never thought that he would meet the Dragon Slayer in this kind of situation, and almost die at his hands. If it wasn't for the fact that he was at Buzhou Mountain, and didn't have the help of the guardian spirit, he probably wouldn't have been able to keep his little life. He couldn't help but turn his head and look at the towering Buzhou Mountain. The originally ordinary mountain peak suddenly became mysterious and tall in his eyes. "Thank you," he silently said to the guardian spirit. "This is what you deserve. You saved Buzhou Mountain from being destroyed." The guardian spirit calmly said. Tang Zheng gave a bitter smile. This was the so-called drinking and pecking. It really was the will of the heavens. When he used the mountain-moving divine ability to protect Buzhou Mountain, he didn't think of anything in return. He was only focused on stopping the demons. He never thought that there would be such a pleasant surprise. The Shura's eyes were filled with disbelief. His large eyes almost popped out as he stared at Tang Zheng. After a long time he stammered, Why did he leave like this? The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth hooked up into an unfathomable smile. Only he knows the answer to this question. He was scared away by you. The Shura wasn't stupid and directly said. Tang Zheng shrugged. He didn't deny it, but he also didn't admit it. The Shura's eyes changed again. He had known Tang Zheng for a long time and understood his strength very well. But this time he really didn't understand. Even he couldn't repel the Dragon Slayer, but he was scared away by Tang Zheng. He didn't think that the Dragon Slayer was a fool or a coward that could be easily scared away. The Shura thought of the only explanation with his not-so-bright brain. Tang Zheng was hiding his strength, so he scared away the Dragon Slayer. Reading a book? Could it be that he had been deliberately showing weakness in front of me all this time? The more Shura thought about it, the more he felt that this was a possibility. Tang Zheng had repeatedly risked his life. If he didn't have enough strength, then his courage was simply too great. Moreover, he had walked back from the gates of hell time and time again. This was not something that could be explained by luck alone. He had to have the strength and confidence to believe in it. This confidence definitely came from the fact that he was deliberately hiding his strength. Shura became more and more certain of his conjecture. In the end, he thought to himself, in the past, when I fought with him several times, I was actually walking on the edge of a knife. I could be hurt by the sharp knife at any time. In the future, I have to be even more careful. I can't be as unbridled and arrogant as before. I'm also injured this time, so I should rest and recuperate. Tang Zheng was completely unaware of the many complicated thoughts flashing through Shura's mind. He was still reflecting on the battle just now. I want to return to Sumeru world to recuperate. Shura interrupted Tang Zheng's thoughts. Tang Zheng was slightly startled. He looked deeply at Shura. Did the sun rise from the west? Shura actually took the initiative to return to Sumeru world. He didn't think too much about it. With a wave of his hand, Shura was absorbed into it. Young man, Shura's perception of you has changed. The inner demons also recovered from their shock. However, they didn't ignore Shura's change and pointed it out. Tang Zheng was stunned. He couldn't help but laugh. You're not joking, right? I don't have the leisure to joke with you. Your battle with the Dragon Slayer intimidated him. You should know that although Shura already has intelligence, his primitive instincts are still hidden deep in his heart. That is the reverence for the strong. Tang Zheng's expression changed slightly. He muttered to himself. Your battle with the Dragon Slayer exposed your hidden strength. Shura noticed this, so he naturally feared and respected you. I dare say that if you don't recite the Ksitigarbha Sutra in the future, he won't resist. The inner demon's assertion made Tang Zheng's heart move. He was surprised, but also faintly looked forward to it. He had intimidated Shura. If this was true, then Shura wouldn't be a hidden danger. At least, he wouldn't be a hidden danger for now. Instead, he would be a powerful help. Now that the situation was complicated, it was undoubtedly a very lucky thing to have Shura's sincere help. Seeing that Tang Zheng was silent, the inner demons asked curiously, Young man, you and I are one. Why hide it from me? How did you do this? Could it be that you're really hiding something? Before speaking, the inner demons had carefully examined Tang Zheng's body. He didn't find any clues, which made him even more puzzled. The more he couldn't find anything, the more uncertain he was. Unknowingly, he had a trace of reverence for Tang Zheng. Although it wasn't as strong as Shura, it had taken root and sprouted. Tang Zheng smiled faintly. Inner demons, you're just in my body. We're not one. Moreover, everyone has secrets. Aren't you the same? Do you dare to say that you're not hiding anything from me? This sentence immediately blocked the inner demons, making him speechless. Of course, he wasn't completely honest with Tang Zheng. Naturally, he couldn't ask Tang Zheng to be completely honest with him. Although this time we've turned danger into safety, the danger hasn't been completely eliminated. Whether it's the demon race going to great lengths to destroy Mount Bujo, or the dragon slayer trying to find the golden dragon, and then find me, all of these have made the situation more dangerous. We have to find a way to deal with it. In addition, I originally wanted to find the demon race and discuss with them the problem of the spatial separation between the two worlds. However, I didn't get any useful clues. The demon race didn't give me a chance to discuss at all. This won't do. According to Xianin, the spatial separation between the two worlds will become more and more fragile. The large forces of the sky beyond sky may come to this world at any time. Tang Zheng was worried and worried. For a moment, he didn't have a good way to improve the situation. Do you want to know the reason why the demon race destroyed Mount Bujo? The guardian's voice suddenly sounded. Tang Zheng was startled and asked hurriedly, "Do you know the reason?" "I'm the guardian of Mount Bujo. Of course I know the reason," the guardian said matter-of-factly. Tang Zheng slapped his head and suddenly realized, yes, there's probably no one in this world who knows Mount Bujo better than the guardian. He must know the reason. "Tell me quickly. What's the reason?" Tang Zheng couldn't wait to ask. The guardian said in a low voice, "The divine power of Mount Bujo protects the 100,000 mountains. Once Mount Bujo is destroyed, the divine power contained in the 100,000 mountains will naturally collapse. This will completely change the situation of the 100,000 mountains." Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat and he hurriedly asked, "What will happen after the situation changes?" "Once the situation changes, the 100,000 mountains will no longer be the 100,000 mountains, but a barren land." Barren land? Tang Zheng was shocked and frightened by this name. Obviously, this barren land was definitely not a good place. The barren land is the place where the Juli tribe lives and gathers. What is the barren land? It is a place where ordinary people can't live at all. Only the Juli tribe can live. As soon as this was said, Tang Zheng was even more shocked. His eyes widened in shock. The guardian added, "Not only that, the barren land will also expand. Dianan will be the first to be lost. It will be eroded by the barren land and become a barren land. Ordinary people will no longer be able to live in it." Tang Zheng didn't know what words to use to describe his feelings. He always knew that Qi would take revenge for the Battle of Zhuolu, which meant that he would take revenge on the whole world. However, he never expected that he would come up with such a way. Once the whole world became a barren land, ordinary people couldn't survive at all. This was equivalent to destroying the descendants of the Yellow Emperor tribe. This world was full of the descendants of the Yellow Emperor tribe. Although tens of thousands of years had passed, Qi still blamed the ordinary people. There was no need to wait for the arrival of the Out Sky. This world was almost destroyed, leaving only the Devil clan. This move could be said to be vicious. Qiyu's desire for revenge could be said to be abnormal. He actually hurt the innocent and affected so many people. He couldn't help but clench his teeth. There seemed to be sparks in his eyes. He secretly said, "Fortunately, I stopped the Devil clan. Otherwise, once the other party succeeded, the consequences would be unimaginable." After a pause, he thought of another question and asked, "The Devil clan failed this time. Will there be a way to destroy Mount Bujo in the future?" This was the key to the problem. If the Devil clan still had a way, then it was impossible to guard against. He couldn't guard Mount Bujo all the time. The protector said confidently, "There is only one chance. After the volcano in the Holy Land erupts, the volcano will die. Then there will be no magma that can threaten Mount Bujo." Tang Zheng let out a sigh of relief and said, "Qiyu's scheme was thwarted. He will definitely be furious. If he knows that I didn't die, he will definitely think of a way to take revenge. Well, as long as this world is protected, what's there to be afraid of?" "You are very selfless," the protector praised. Tang Zheng shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Because this world is my home. Of course I won't allow outsiders to destroy my home." The Jiuli tribe was born in the barren land. The living conditions in the barren land are very bad. People from other tribes can't survive, but the Jiuli tribe can live in peace. It's like a paradise. Qiyu always tried to turn the world into a barren land. In order to stop him, the Yellow Emperor started a war. In the end, the Yellow Emperor defeated Qiyu. Step by step, he transformed the barren land. After countless years, the barren land disappeared from this world. After the Jiuli tribe left the barren land, their strength was greatly reduced. This is also why the Devil clan has never been able to completely defeat the righteous path and restore the Jiuli tribe's former glory. Hearing these secrets from tens of thousands of years ago, Tang Zheng's attention was firmly attracted. Like a curious child, he kept asking, "The which clan is the origin of the Jiuli tribe? It is equivalent to a part of the Jiuli tribe. The which clan's strength is not high now. Could it be because there is no barren land?" Chapter 1296. The Buzhou mountain had stood tall since ancient times and had witnessed history. In response to Tang Zheng's question, the guardian spirit said without hesitation, "The which clan was imprisoned in the 10,000 great mountains. The sharp decline in their strength is indeed related to the degeneration of the savage lands. You must know that the Witch clan is the origin of the Ninely tribe. The strength of the Witch clan can be imagined. If the savage lands reappear, the strength of the Witch clan will indeed increase by leaps and bounds." The guardian spirit gave a definite answer. Tang Zheng's eyelids twitched. He was looking forward to this answer, but he was also a little afraid. The Witch clan could grow stronger, but there were too few of them. They could not be compared to the huge Demon clan. Once the savage lands reappeared, the disadvantages would definitely outweigh the advantages. The Demon clan would completely crush the other clans. Not to mention Tang Zheng, even the Yellow Emperor's old subordinates would have to stand aside. The Witch clan will assist you. If the savage lands reappear, the Witch clan will be powerful. It will also be good for you. However, that is already impossible, the guardian spirit said. Tang Zheng smiled bitterly. "I don't want to sacrifice this world to strengthen my own strength. I am not Qiyu." He and Qiyu were both Skywalkers, but the Nine-Yang Saint body was completely different. There was no similarity in their temperament. "I really didn't misjudge you," the guardian spirit praised sincerely. "If the Buzhou mountain can prevent the 10,000 great mountains from becoming a savage lands, then how did the Buzhou mountain appear?" Tang Zheng asked again. "The Buzhou mountain was born from the destiny of the heavens and earth, not from a single person," the guardian spirit said mysteriously. "It was born from the destiny of the heavens and earth." Tang Zheng frowned. This explanation was too mysterious. He thought for a long time and asked, "Why was the Buzhou mountain born?" The guardian spirit was silent, as if he was conflicted about whether to answer this question or not. In the end, the guardian spirit slowly said, "The world is a savage lands, and the people are in a terrible situation. The heavenly Tao could not bear it, so it gave birth to the Buzhou mountain." Heavenly Tao. Tang Zheng was shocked. Hearing these two words again, his heart was set off waves. "You're saying that the Buzhou mountain was born because the heavenly Tao could not bear to see the people in a terrible situation?" "Yes." "What is the heavenly Tao?" "The great Tao of heaven and earth." Tang Zheng was greatly disappointed. The guardian spirit's words were not very innovative. This heavenly Tao could not be seen, could not be touched, could not be understood, and was confused. Tang Zheng shook his head regretfully and said thoughtfully, "After Mount Buzhou appeared, the number of barbarians in the barbarian land must have decreased sharply. Why didn't Qiyu destroy Mount Buzhou before?" "Yellow Emperor." The guardian spirit spat out these two words. Tang Zheng suddenly understood. The Yellow Emperor was definitely aware of the power of Mount Buzhou, and would definitely obstruct Qiyu's plan. Since Qiyu couldn't succeed, he naturally had to give up on this idea. Now that the Yellow Emperor was no longer in the way, Qiyu came up with a plan to destroy Mount Buzhou. In the Battle of Zhuolu, Qiyu was defeated. The divine power of Mount Buzhou accumulated over time, and the barbarian land in the world completely disappeared. There was no place for the demons to stand. The guardian spirit said. Tang Zheng secretly nodded and said, "Then what about the stairway to heaven at the peak of Mount Buzhou? What's that about?" The stairway to heaven was the first passage to open the gate between the two worlds. This was very important. It even had something to do with the sky beyond heaven eyeing this world. Mount Buzhou was born from the heavenly Tao. Then what was the stairway to heaven? The stairway to heaven and Mount Buzhou are of the same origin. They appeared together, and the stairway to sky beyond heaven is connected. As for what the stairway to heaven is used for, I don't know. But I believe that the stairway to heaven must have its own uses. Otherwise, the heavenly Tao would not have created the stairway to heaven. The guardian spirit said with certainty. However, Tang Zheng was getting more and more confused. What was the meaning of the heavenly Tao's actions? There was no need for the stairway to heaven to exist. Apart from exposing this world to the sky beyond heaven, and causing the sky beyond heaven to covet it, it also caused a series of disasters. Other than that, the stairway to heaven did not have much use. Obviously, the guardian spirit did not know the intentions of the heavenly Tao. Perhaps, only the heavenly Tao itself knew. Tang Zheng thought for a long time, and could only give up. The stairway to heaven has been destroyed. If you want to rebuild the stairway to heaven, you must find the heaven and earth obsidian, right? Tang Zheng asked. Yes. The guardian spirit said. Only by rebuilding the stairway to heaven can Mount Buzhou be considered complete. The divine power will be restored to its original state. Could it be that the divine power of Mount Buzhou has been greatly reduced? Yes, if not, you would not be so passive today. The guardian spirit seemed to sigh regretfully. This sentence meant that if the divine power of Mount Buzhou was as good as before, it would not be as simple as just scaring off the dragon slayer. It might really be able to repel the dragon slayer, and even destroy him. Thinking of this, Tang Zheng became excited. He had an urge to rebuild the stairway to heaven, and lure the dragon slayer to Mount Buzhou. With the help of the divine power, he could kill the dragon slayer. But this idea quickly disappeared. He did not gather all the heaven and earth obsidian. A part of it fell into the hands of Qiyu. Qiyu would definitely not be willing to rebuild the stairway to heaven, and allow Mount Buzhou to fully recover its divine power. This way his plan would be even more ruined. Qiyu would definitely not do something that would harm himself and benefit others. He could only sigh and give up on this unrealistic idea. The spatial isolation between the two worlds in the sky above the mountain peak has weakened, right? Tang Zheng thought of another question. This was one of the goals of this trip. Naturally, he would not forget. With the guardian spirit, he wanted to ask all his questions. The spatial isolation between the two worlds has been weakening. This is no secret. In other words, people from the outland can break through the restrictions of space and reach this world? It's not impossible. After getting an affirmative answer, Tang Zheng's mood instantly became heavy. It was as if a huge rock was pressing down on him. Then how can I make up for this? I have no way. The guardian spirit said honestly. Fine. If I leave Mount Buzhou, does that mean the divine power won't work? Of course. This divine power is only temporary. It will help you defeat strong enemies. Tang Zheng was not disappointed. The divine power helped him scare off the dragon slayer. This was already a great opportunity. He would not be greedy. Then I will take my leave first. Take care of yourself. Mount Buzhou cannot fall. Tang Zheng urged. Although this trip was extremely dangerous and he did not get all the answers, he still gained something. It was better than nothing. Take care. I have a feeling that we will meet again in the future. The guardian spirit said mysteriously. Maybe. Tang Zheng shook his head and turned to fly. Without the somersault cloud, his speed was much slower. After leaving the 100,000 mountains, he descended from the sky. The border of the 100,000 mountains had been completely taken over by the military. Countless soldiers rushed over from all directions. This time, the volcanic eruption had caused such a huge commotion. The authorities might not be afraid of it, but on the contrary, they would be even more eager to enter the core area of the 100,000 mountains to investigate. His guess was very accurate. The authorities had indeed planned to do so, and had even given him a death order. From now on, the 100,000 mountains would no longer be a deathly still place. The situation where people were rarely seen would change, and it would be occupied by countless large machines and soldiers. Tang Zheng was not worried. Other than the Buzhou mountain, there was nothing else useful in the 100,000 mountains. There might still be some treasures in the prehistoric heavenly tomb, but this time, when the magma flowed through the prehistoric heavenly tomb, all the treasures turned into nothingness. He did not alarm these people. Without the somersault cloud, he could not fly continuously. He could only take a plane back to the capital. His whereabouts were immediately exposed to the various powers. The Long family was the first to receive the news that Tang Zheng had taken the opportunity. Long Xianyuan and Grandma Li had not recovered from the shock of seeing the Dragon Slayer, but they actually found out that Tang Zheng had left the 100,000 mountains safely. This was truly shocking. He was so shocked that his jaw was about to dislocate. The two of them looked at each other in dismay. For half an hour, they were unable to say a single word. In their minds, Tang Zheng was definitely going to die, because that mysterious person was simply too powerful, and there was simply no way for him to resist. But Tang Zheng just swaggered out without any hindrance. With the video as proof, even if they suspected it, they could only dispel this laughable thought. One thing was certain. The situation was far more complicated than they had imagined. Without a leader, they were helpless. The only thing they could hope for was for the High Lord to break through the shackles in his heart as soon as possible and rise to power. Tang Zheng was not worried that his whereabouts would be exposed. He was currently holding back a belly full of anger, and if anyone wanted to provoke him, he would not mind venting his anger on them. He sat quietly on the plane and closed his eyes to recuperate. Although there was a fashionable girl sitting beside him, he did not take another look. This attracted the attention of the fashionable girl. She could not help but curl her lips and spit out two words: pretentious. Tang Zheng did not pretend at all. He was not in the mood to flirt. The other male passengers could not wait to change seats with him and get closer to the fashionable girl. "Hey, I'll change seats with you." A stiff voice rudely interrupted Tang Zheng's thoughts. A fat man walked over from the first-class cabin, patted Tang Zheng's shoulder, and said arrogantly. Tang Zheng opened his eyes. The guy opposite him was an ordinary person. Tang Zheng did not want to vent his anger on an ordinary person, so he shook his head and said, "No need." The other party was stunned for a moment, as if he did not expect this kid to reject him so decisively. That indifferent gaze did not put him in his eyes at all, and this angered him. "Kid, don't be so shameless. I want to have a good chat with this lady about life. If you know what's good for you, go sit over there. Looking at you, I'm sure you've never sat in first class before. Today, I'll be merciful and let you have a taste of foreign meat." Tang Zheng laughed involuntarily. He was not angry, he just felt that it was funny. No matter where you go, there will always be people who feel good about themselves. This guy with a little money was such a person. He then looked at the girl beside him. She was indeed beautiful, but for him, she did not arouse the slightest interest. Seeing the other party pestering him, Tang Zheng was ready to sternly reject the other party. But he saw the other party's eyes suddenly become round, staring straight out of the window with an expression as if he had seen a ghost. The girl slightly glanced to the side and looked at Tang Zheng with ridicule. She wanted to see how he would respond. She liked it when men were jealous of her. Chapter 1298. Wuxia looked sharply at Tang Zheng and asked coldly, "Why are you so stubborn? This is beneficial to you, so why won't you agree?" Tang Zheng looked indifferently at Wuxia and said, "In life, there are things to do and things not to do. I will not sacrifice countless unrelated strangers for my own personal gain. Today, you suppress the demon race and reappear in the wilderness. In the future, the demon race will suppress you and sacrifice countless innocent lives to condense the soul of the golden crow. How should I deal with that?" "Soft-hearted," Wuxia shouted. "Since ancient times, which throne hasn't been covered in bones? We condense the soul of the golden crow and revive the yellow emperor for the sake of the common people. What's the big deal with a little sacrifice?" Tang Zheng smiled and said, "This seems to be a dignified reason, but in reality, how is it any different from the demon race?" As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere suddenly changed and a somber atmosphere arose spontaneously. The air 10,000 meters in the air seemed to have frozen. "Audacious, you actually dare to mix the Yellow Emperor's tribe with the demon race. Mo Xie's reaction was very big, as if his reverse scale had been touched. Tang Zheng knew this, but he still said it because these were his true thoughts. Whether it was the demon race or the Yellow Emperor's former subordinates, they didn't put the common people in their eyes. They thought they were ants that could be trampled on. This made Tang Zheng very unhappy. This was because he was also an ordinary person before, and he was also an ant in the eyes of the other party. This kind of empathy made it impossible for him to stay out of this matter. Mo Xie huffed and puffed as she heavily exhaled. Only then was she able to suppress the anger in her heart as she said, Tang Zheng, this is your last chance. Don't tell me you want to become enemies with the demon race, and us at the same time? This is not a wise decision. You will be attacked from the front and the back. Do you think you can come out unscathed? Facing Mo Xie's threat, Tang Zheng had already made his decision. He smiled and said, being attacked from the front and back, haha, I haven't experienced it before. I'm actually preparing to experience it. It should feel pretty good. Seeing that Tang Zheng was stubborn, Mo Xie shook her head in disappointment. She had come all the way here to throw an olive branch, but she never thought that this would be the result. This would only happen once. However, when he thought of the demon race's plan, his heart became heavy, as if a huge rock was pressing down on him. He did not lie to Tang Zheng. He was sure that Qiyu would definitely have a backup plan. In other words, Qiyu would not give up on the plan to let the wildlands reappear in the world. After this failure, Qiyu would only become even more secretive. In the end, perhaps neither he nor Tang Zheng would be able to discover him. That would be really bad. I've already collected enough pure yang energy from the life totem. I must condense the soul of the golden crow as soon as possible and revive the Yellow Emperor. This is the most urgent matter. As for Tang Zheng, Mo Xie's expression fluctuated as he looked at Tang Zheng. In the end, he made a decision. He will restrain the demon race and even obstruct their plans. Killing him will do more harm than good. Let him live for now. Tang Zheng calmly looked into Mo Xie's eyes. No matter what decision Mo Xie made, he would not be surprised or afraid. This was because the two sides were enemies to begin with. How bad could the situation be? Tang Zheng, take care of yourself. The next time we meet, your life might be in danger. Mo Xie threw down these vicious words and disappeared into the distance with a whoosh. Tang Zheng shrugged and curled his lips. You intercepted me midway and went through so much trouble just to persuade me to surrender. Haha, you went through so much trouble. It's just that you think I, Tang Zheng, am too simple. However, after listening to his words, it was not as if he had gained nothing. At the very least, Tang Zheng did not know that the demon race had a backup plan. Now that he knew, he did not dare to lower his guard. After returning, he had to use all his strength to guard against the demon race's backup plan. When night fell, Tang Zheng returned to the capital. When he was still some distance away from his villa, he heard the sounds of quarreling. No, I want to go to the 100,000 mountains. If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see him. Feng Shishir's sorrowful voice came from afar. Feng Shishir usually spoke in a soft voice and rarely spoke in such an intense tone. One could imagine how great her emotions were. I want to go too. I believe that he won't die. How can this playboy die? There are still so many girls in this house who haven't been harmed. Is he willing to die? Yi Dingdong's clear voice was like a thunderclap in a clear sky, causing people's ears to buzz. Hearing that, Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Yi Dingdang, this girl, he really had to teach her a lesson. Was he that playful? Woo, it's all because I'm useless. I couldn't help her. Lu Qingmei started to cry. The impact this time was too great for her, and for a moment, she found it hard to accept this reality. Li Xiaotian did not cry, he bit his lips and said after a long while, I am also responsible. Even if I die, I should fight alongside him. Right, didn't you boast that you're very powerful? Furthermore, you even obtained the heaven-shocking bow and the sun-shooting arrows. You should fight alongside him instead of escaping back by yourself. Marshall was silent for a long time. After hearing Li Xiaotian's words, he exploded like a barrel of gunpowder and said loudly. Li Xiaotian bit her lips, causing blood to flow out from the corner of her mouth. She did not refute Marshall's words, like a child who had done something wrong. She did not say a word. The large villa was filled with clouds of sorrow, and the air was so oppressive that it was almost suffocating. The opponent is a dragon slayer. Even if you stay, you won't be of any use. You're just sending yourself to your death. Empyrean Fairy said calmly. Even if we die, we'll die with him. In any case, we're cowards if we run away. Yi Dingdang stood together with Marshall against a common enemy. Fang Shirshir bit her lips as her heart was completely filled with grief. She couldn't say a single word as her tears fell like pearls from a broken necklace. Stop arguing, crying and making a ruckus. What are you talking about? Tang Zheng, that brat's life is very tough. How could he die so easily? Tian Chanzi shouted loudly, like a clap of thunder, trying to suppress the scene. Actually, he was also a little guilty. The Dragon Slayer was not someone else. Even the Dragon Clan was afraid of the Dragon Slayer. Although Tang Zheng was powerful, he was definitely not a match for the Dragon Slayer. How could he escape from the hands of the Dragon Slayer? Tian Chanzi was not absolutely sure. Hearing Tian Chanzi's words, the despair in everyone's heart seemed to ignite a flame of hope, and they asked with anticipation, "Really? If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse. This isn't even certain yet. You guys are already fighting amongst yourselves. What kind of scandal is this? If Tang Zheng knew about this, what would he think?" Tian Chanzi asked aggressively. Everyone immediately fell into silence, as if they were thinking about what Tang Zheng would think. "Hee, what do you think? Just ask me and you'll know." A light voice suddenly sounded from the door. Swish. Everyone was stunned, as if they were possessed, and they thought it was an auditory hallucination. They looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Then, pairs of eyes looked at the door in unison. Creak. The door was pushed open, and a person walked in the night. Everyone's eyes widened in shock. "Are you a human or a ghost?" Tian Chanzi blurted out. Tang Zheng laughed and joked. "Tian Chanzi, do you think I'm a human or a ghost? Such a big living person standing in front of you. And you actually think I'm a ghost? Are you old and dizzy? Is it really you, brat?" Tian Chanzi took a few steps forward and tried to pat Tang Zheng's shoulder, but found that several people brushed past him and directly threw themselves into Tang Zheng's arms. Tang Zheng was hit a few times, and when he looked down, there were 4 more people in his arms. Fang Shirshir, Yi Dingdang Wu and Lu Qingmei. Li Xiaotian lifted her foot, but in the end, did not take a step, and stopped abruptly, looking at the 4 women with eyes full of envy. At the same time, surprise burst out from her heart, like gorgeous fireworks, making her mood instantly beautiful. The 4 women rushed into Tang Zheng's arms at the same time, crying tears of joy. Everyone's eyes were full of tears, and they were very excited, as if they were talking to themselves. "It's good that you're fine, I knew you wouldn't abandon me," Fang Shirshir said while sobbing. "Yes, how can a playboy like you be willing to die? There are so many beauties at home." Yi Dingdang punched Tang Zheng, feeling all kinds of emotions, crying and laughing at the same time. Wu did not say a word, but tightly hugged Tang Zheng with both hands. "I don't want to leave you. Even if we die, we will die together. It's too cruel for you to let me leave." Lu Qingmei's entire body trembled, her tears wetting the corner of Tang Zheng's clothes. For women, for heavy feelings of deep affection, completely exposed without any warning, causing Tang Zheng to have mixed feelings, and his mood also became heavy. With such a beautiful woman, how could he bear to die? How could he die? He took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the sour feeling in his nose, and lightly patted their backs, pretending to be relaxed as he comforted them. "Don't worry, I'm back now, aren't I? How could I die so easily? I'm an undying cockroach." Lu Qingmei raised her head, looked at him with tears in her eyes and said, "You don't know how worried I was when I saw you fighting with the Dragon Slayer. How could I not be worried?" Tang Zheng extended his finger, and gently lifted Lu Qingmei's hair by her ear, revealing her white cheeks and comforted her. "The Dragon Slayer is strong, but I'm not weak either. You have to have a bit of confidence in me." "Of course we have confidence in you, but this situation is different from before. Who wouldn't be worried? How could we be as calm as you say? That would be heartless. Yi Dingdang impatiently said. Right, if I didn't have you in my heart, I wouldn't be worried about you. Feng Shishir allowed her tears to fall, and said while choking with sobs. When these words were said, the other women's eyes had a subtle change, and they couldn't help but look at each other with strange expressions. The four women threw themselves into Tang Zheng's arms, leaning together in his embrace. Just now, they didn't find it strange, but now that they gradually calmed down, the scene immediately became awkward, or perhaps ambiguous. Wasn't this equivalent to their relationship with Tang Zheng completely exposed? Chapter 1299. The four girls' pink faces were especially alluring. For a moment, the four girls were in a dilemma. They glanced at each other from the corner of their eyes, touched each other, and then quickly retracted their gazes. Tang Zheng coughed dryly and said casually, "I'm back, you don't have to worry." After saying this, he let go of the four girls without a trace. As if relieved of a heavy burden, the four women hurriedly pulled apart the distance between them and Tang Zheng. Tian Chanzi smiled faintly. Tang Zheng rolled his eyes at him, knowing what he was thinking. From beginning to end, Tian Chanzi had been encouraging Tang Zheng to go all out, and now he was very close to success. The Empyrean fairy didn't care about her daughter's love affairs and directly said, "You fought with the Dragon Slayer? How did you escape from him?" Although she hadn't seen the Dragon Slayer, she could imagine how powerful he was. "It's a long story." Tang Zheng spoke tirelessly, not hiding the details of his battle with the Dragon Slayer. He only deliberately hid the matter of Mount Buzhou's guardian spirit. This was an unusual matter, and he subconsciously didn't want to announce it to the public. Moreover, he had been deliberately mystifying in front of Shura and the inner demons. If he exposed it now, he couldn't hide it from them, and all his previous efforts would be wasted. Although it sounded impossible, Tang Zheng was standing in front of them alive, and this fact was undeniable. Therefore, no one doubted the truth. Tang Zheng then threw out the matter of his meeting with Wuxia, instantly attracting everyone's attention. When they heard about the wildlands, their expressions changed. Qiyu is really crazy. He wants to destroy the entire human race. We can't let him succeed. The Empyrean fairy's expression kept changing and finally said, Wuxia said that Qiyu has a backup plan. What do you think it is? Tang Zheng resentfully shook his head. Wuxia can't think of it, and I don't know either. But I believe Wuxia's words. Everyone's hearts tightened. Then doesn't that mean the danger hasn't been resolved, and the wildlands will reappear? We can't rule out this possibility. A huge rock pressed down on everyone's heart, reducing the joy of seeing Tang Zheng. Their morale was somewhat low. When Tang Zheng saw this, he quickly encouraged them. This is just speculation. It hasn't happened yet, so don't feel too much pressure. Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir. Qiyu is cunning, but we've already crushed his first scheme, so we can crush his second one. Sure enough, these words were effective. Everyone's spirits were lifted, and they were in high spirits. Li Xiaotian passed down the order. Use all resources and pay attention to any suspicious phenomenon. We must find a way to find out about Qiyu's so-called backup plan. Tang Zheng instructed in a deep voice. Li Xiaotian's expression had already returned to normal. Hearing this order, he subconsciously straightened his body and sternly said, Relax, the entirely palace will definitely do its utmost. Tang Zheng secretly nodded. A trace of reluctance appeared between Li Xiaotian's brows. He took out the heaven-shocking bow and the sun-shooting arrow and handed them over to Tang Zheng, saying, I'll return these two divine weapons to you. Tang Zheng did not reach out to receive it. Instead, he stared at her with a burning gaze and asked, Are you used to it? A smile crept onto the corner of Li Xiaotian's mouth. She said, Of course these two divine weapons are peerless in power. Especially with Hou Yi's archery. They are so perfect that I can't bear to part with them. Tang Zheng already had an idea in his mind, and said, When we were at Mount Buzhou, I said that I would gift it to you. This was not a joke, I was serious. Therefore, these two divine weapons are naturally yours. You don't need to return them to me. Li Xiaotian's eyes were filled with ecstasy at first, but then he shook his head. No, it can be used even more in your hands. Wrong. Tang Zheng denied. Hou Yi's archery is a set of martial arts. I have no way to cultivate it. I did not truly unleash their power. This is a pearl covered in dust. Furthermore, in terms of archery, other people are far inferior to you. Only you are its true master. And if not for you, I would not have been able to obtain these two divine weapons. I have occupied them for so long, and now I have returned them to their rightful owner. Hearing these words, Li Xiaoyan's eyelids twitched, his heart surged, and the hand that was holding onto the divine armament started to tremble. Tang Zheng's finger tapped on the heaven-shocking bow and the sun-shooting arrow. An array of light blossomed from the divine armament. Then, with a push, the divine armament returned to Li Xiaoyan's embrace. Tian Chanzi's pupils constricted, and he exclaimed, "You removed your master and servant relationship with these two divine weapons?" Tang Zheng nodded without batting an eyelid, without the slightest bit of regret. Although he would indeed lack a suitable weapon in the future, he believed that they would definitely be of greater use in Li Xiaoyan's hands. When the others saw this scene, their expressions also changed indeterminately, especially Yi Dingdang, Fang Shishir and Marshall looked at each other. The three girls had secretly formed an alliance to guard against Li Xiaotian. They never thought that Tang Zheng would give her this divine armament. Wouldn't that mean that Li Xiaotian's status had increased? What a mistake! They were extremely regretful. If they had not allowed Li Xiaotian and Tang Zheng to go to the Buzhou mountain together, this would not have happened. They understood Tang Zheng very well. Even if they stood out to stop Tang Zheng, it would be useless, because he had already made up his mind. Li Xiaoyan's hesitant eyes gradually became resolute. His hands gently caressed the heaven-shocking bow and the sun-shooting arrow, his heart surging with waves. Thousands of words stuck in his chest, but he could not say a single word. In the end, all her emotions turned into a heartfelt thank you, and she bowed deeply towards Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng patted her shoulder and said, "Treat the divine armament well, and use it to benefit the world. This will not be in vain." "Yes, sir." Li Xiaoyan's entire body trembled. He stood up straight, like a soldier who was being inspected, and answered firmly. At this time, Mu Hongyan held on to Nana and returned from outside with Princess Anne. When the people in the room sensed that the atmosphere was a little strange, they could not help but ask curiously, "What's going on?" The matter of Mount Buzhou had temporarily ended, so Tang Zheng was not willing to say too much. He did not want them to worry, so he smiled and said a few words, dispelling their doubts. Nana was like a little butterfly as she threw herself into Tang Zheng's embrace. Immediately, the atmosphere became joyous, sweeping away the previous depression. In the dead of the night, the villa also quieted down, and everyone returned to their rooms to rest. Fang Shishir, Yi Dingdang and Wuxia gathered in a corner, and muttered to each other for a while. No one knew what they were discussing. When the three of them separated, their faces were flushed red like ripe apples. Their eyes were filled with shyness, making them exceptionally alluring. Creak. The door was pushed open, and Tang Zheng, who was lying on the bed, suddenly opened his eyes. He could vaguely see a figure flying in from the door, and then hurriedly closed the door behind him. Even in the darkness, it was unable to block Tang Zheng's gaze. These two people were actually Fang Shishir and Yi Dingdang. These two girls seemed to be holding hands, and seemed to be quite nervous. They leaned against the door, and their breathing quickened. Tang Zheng's curiosity was piqued. He did not know what the two of them were up to, so he simply remained silent. The two of them took a few deep breaths, and seemed to have finally gathered their courage. Yi Dingdang took the lead and walked towards Tang Zheng. Fang Shishir's hand was held by Yi Dingdang, so she had no choice but to walk over. Thump thump. The sound of heartbeats seemed to be particularly clear in this quiet environment. Their hearts seemed to be about to jump out of their throats. The two of them walked to the bedside. Tang Zheng was sleeping. Yi Dingdang pointed at Fang Shishir's clothes and then took off her jacket, revealing the thin pajamas inside. Fang Shishir bit her lip and did the same. She took off her jacket, revealing her silk underwear. Her curvaceous body was faintly discernible. Tang Zheng narrowed his eyes and saw everything clearly. His heart skipped a beat and he said in surprise, "Could it be that the two of them are thinking of Happiness came too suddenly. For a moment, he felt that everything was like a dream. Yes, this must be a dream. Sure is so reserved. How could she do this? At most, only Ding Dang would dare to mess around like this. Since he was sure that it was a dream, he might as well let it go. This kind of beautiful dream was the dream of many men. How could he waste this opportunity? Yi Ding Dang suddenly felt a large hand coming from behind and covering her butt. She exclaimed, "Ah, he's not sleeping. This guy is too despicable. He actually chose to side with us." Feng Shishir was like a frightened rabbit. She wanted to run to the side, but Tang Zheng's large hand stopped her slender waist. "Haha, you guys sure have guts." Tang Zheng jumped up and laughed loudly. "You're not sleeping. Annoying," Feng Shishir said coquettishly. Her face was so red that it could drip water. It was only because it was dark that she could see clearly. Tang Zheng said in all seriousness, "You guys still dare to talk about me? This is my room. What do you want to do by sneaking into my room in the middle of the night? Tell me the truth." "We just went into the wrong room," Feng Shishir said in a low voice. "Wrong room? Do you think I'll believe such a lame excuse?" Tang Zheng said with a smile that was not a smile. His large hands started to move. "Aya, where are your hands touching? Don't move." Feng Shishir began to twist around, coquettishly complaining. Yi Dingdong's personality was fiery. She grabbed onto Tang Zheng's large hands and rolled her eyes at him, saying, "Don't act like you're innocent after taking advantage of us. It's not like we don't know what you're thinking. Haven't you been looking forward to this scene for a long time?" Tang Zheng said righteously. "Am I that kind of person?" "Of course." Yi Dingding nodded without hesitation. Feng Shishir hesitated for a moment before gently nodding her head as well. Tang Zheng loudly shouted, "Do you know that this is slander? Slander must be punished." "I'm going back." Feng Shishir tried to break free from Tang Zheng's evil clutches as she called out sweetly, "It's too late. You sneaked into my room and still want to escape? No way. I'll punish you with the family law and let you know how powerful I am." Tang Zheng flipped over and sat up. His two large hands wrapped around the two women's slender waists as he pressed them down on the bed. "Ah!" The two girls cried out in alarm. Feng Shishir's scream also carried a bit of a soft and delicate feeling. Yi Dingdang, on the other hand, was much more fiery as her big hands directly touched Tang Zheng's chest. Tang Zheng's eyes lit up as he said, "Hey, you still dare to take the initiative to attack? I'll let you know how powerful I am." His large hands reached into their pajamas and firmly pressed the two women under his body, stirring up the entire room. Please follow my WeChat public account, Tang Xiao. If you search for Tang Xiao, you will find me. Don't type the wrong word. Because of a lot of well-known reasons, some content cannot be posted in the book. Tomorrow, the details will be posted on the public account. Chapter 1300. The early morning sunlight shone in through the window golden. Tang Zheng opened his eyes and looked left and right, but there was no sign of Feng Shishir and Yi Dingdang. The corner of his mouth couldn't help but reveal a disappointed and frustrated expression, and said in retrospect, "It was indeed a dream, but that dream was too real, and the things that happened in the dream were endless." The battle last night was extremely intense and could be said to be soul-stirring. The woman's physique was extremely good, and it could be said that she had met her match. He was bold and did not reject anyone. In the end, after a hearty battle, he finally defeated the two girls and pressed them under his body. He could only gasp for breath and beg for mercy, crying out continuously. He put on his clothes and came to the hall, just in time to see Feng Shishir and Yi Dingdang walking down the stairs. The two girls' faces were full of spring. Their skin was delicate and lustrous, and they had a kind of lazy beauty. Tang Zheng did not notice that the two of them looked at each other and glanced at Tang Zheng at the same time. There was an indescribable bashfulness in the depths of their eyes. Marshall walked to the side of the two girls and started whispering to each other, making it impossible for anyone to guess what they were talking about. Seeing that the few of them were happy and harmonious, Tang Zheng smiled. This way, there would be less danger of a fire in the backyard. However, After looking at the graceful figures of the two girls for a while, his mind couldn't help but recall the beautiful dream he had last night. His heart moved, and his body became hot and dry. Cough, cough. He coughed dryly and suppressed the thoughts in his heart. Bang. Suddenly, with a muffled sound, the door was knocked open. A witch clan member rushed in and shouted in panic, "Lord Envoy, something bad has happened." Tang Zheng's expression turned cold. All of his attention was focused on the witch clan. He quickly walked to the front of the witch clan and said, "Don't panic, speak slowly, what happened?" The witch clan gasped for breath, gasping for breath, and said impatiently, "The teleportation formation in the backyard opened, and Yi Yuan flew out from the teleportation formation." Yi Yuan? A young face surfaced in Tang Zheng's mind. Yi Yuan was one of the witch tribesmen that he was most familiar with, and was also the witch tribesman that followed him the best. Previously, in order to ensure Tang Linger's safety, Tang Zheng had specially assigned Yi Yuan to stay by Tang Linger's side to protect her. After that, Tang Linger did not encounter any danger, and predicted that there would be no danger in the near future. In the current entertainment industry, everyone had a common understanding. No one should ever provoke Tang Linger. Although she wasn't a superstar, her mysteriousness and the power behind her didn't pale in comparison to a superstar. Her path to stardom was smooth sailing, making countless people envious and jealous. Tang Linger was considerate of Yi Yuan's hard work, and insisted that he bring a group of witch clan members back to the island for a vacation. Before Yi Yuan left, he exchanged for a new group of witch clansmen to protect Tang Linger's safety, and only then did he return to the island in peace for a vacation. Right now, the island was the home of the witch clansmen. All of their family members lived on the island, and this group of witch clansmen was outside all year round, so they really missed their family members. They hurriedly returned to the island, and before they left, they even met with Tang Zheng. Hearing that Yi Yuan had flown out from the transmission array, Tang Zheng was shocked. His face was as gloomy as water, and asked, "Where is Yi Yuan?" "The teleportation array is there." Whiz. Tang Zheng's figure flashed, and he had already rushed out of the door. The others also realized that the situation was serious, and hurriedly chased after him. A portion of the witch clansmen had already gathered at the transmission array. There were quite a few witch clansmen stationed in this villa area. This place was equivalent to a transit station between the island and the outside world. The witch clansmen were no longer frogs in a well. One after another, they traveled back and forth between the island and the outside world in batches. In the outside world, the witch clansmen mainly provided protection to important people who were closely related to Tang Zheng. Of course, Tang Zheng did not only treat the witch clansmen as security personnel. He had invited many people to train the witch clansmen, allowing them to learn all kinds of knowledge from modern society and adapt to it. Some of the smart witch clansmen had already learned a lot of modern knowledge, and had truly integrated into modern society. They would hold certain positions in the company and rise up step by step. This was Tang Zheng's idea, or rather, the path he had designed for the witch clansmen. Both martial arts and modern knowledge were equal, giving them enough choice. From afar, Tang Zheng saw Yi Yuan, who was lying on the grass. His face was pale, his body was covered in blood, and his clothes were dyed in a dark red color. "Get out of the way, Lord Envoy is here." The witch clansman quickly moved to the side, opening up a path for Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng squatted down and called out, "Yi Yuan." There was no response. "He's unconscious from his injuries," a witch clansman reminded. Tang Zheng could also see that 2 fingers were placed on his wrist, and a stream of innate qi drilled into Yi Yuan's meridians. Because the two of them had both cultivated the primal chaos Vajra spell before, the innate qi had some similarities, and Yi Yuan's innate qi did not resist this external force. Tang Zheng frowned, and after a while, he was able to clearly investigate Yi Yuan's body. His injuries were not easy. If he did not treat them, they would worsen. Yi Yuan was unconscious and could not provide any useful information. So treating his injuries and saving his life was the most important thing. Tang Zheng channeled his power and silently healed Yi Yuan's injuries. The others chased after him, and when they saw this scene, they were shocked. Yi Yuan was not an ordinary person. It would not be easy to heavily injure him to such an extent. The most important thing was that he was on an island. There were many witch clansmen living on the island, and there were also elders guarding the island. In addition, there were also Thundercloud Beast and Gui Qiansui. Gui Qiansui transformed into an island and moved with the ocean currents. His position was uncertain, so it was not easy to lock onto the island. But now, Yi Yuan was severely injured and flew out of the transmission array. This was too intriguing. The island must have been attacked, and it was not just a normal attack. The fact that the others did not come out of the transmission array could only mean one thing. With that thought, everyone's hearts tensed up, especially the witch clansmen. They all looked at the transmission array, their eyes filled with worry. Their loved ones were on the island. If anything happened to them, what would they do? It was hard to imagine that scene. Whoosh! Tang Zheng heaved a heavy sigh of relief and released Yi Yuan's hand. After the treatment was over, Yi Yuan would not be in too much trouble. However, Yi Yuan had not woken up yet, and Tang Zheng could not wait any longer. He stood up with a whoosh, his face was as cold as ice, and his eyes seemed to want to kill someone. The island was one of his backers, and the witch clan was equivalent to his family. However, they had suffered such a serious attack. He felt the same way, and blamed himself in his heart. He was the envoy of the witch clan. The entire witch clan had entrusted their lives to him, but he had not been able to protect them. This was his dereliction of duty. A serious dereliction of duty. Tang Zheng's breathing became heavy. Every breath he exhaled seemed to be filled with anger and killing intent. He urgently wanted to know who was so blind as to actually dare to touch the witch clan. Seeing Tang Zheng's reaction, everyone felt the same way and hurriedly advised. Don't be anxious, maybe, the situation is not as bad as you think. Tang Zheng remained silent, and handed Yi Yuan over to the other witch clan members and warned them. Take good care of him, I will help him, and seek an explanation for all of you. The witch clansmen looked at him with blazing eyes and said, Lord Envoy, we believe in you. You must teach the enemy a lesson. Tang Zheng nodded his head heavily, his gaze sweeping past the faces of the witch clan members one by one. Then he walked to the front of the transmission array, moving his 10 fingers together, a mysterious power surging out. The transmission array was activated. The others had already seen through Tang Zheng's thoughts from his reaction, and no one tried to persuade him anymore. This sudden turn of events made everyone feel as if a huge rock was pressing down on their hearts. Tang Zheng took large strides into the teleportation array and disappeared. Empyrean Fairy followed closely behind and walked into the transmission array, her figure disappearing from the transmission array. Tian Chanzi said in a deep voice, I'll stay at home to guard in case anything happens. A few witch clan representatives also impatiently walked into the transmission array. At such a critical moment, the witch clan members did not forget their mission, so they left behind a large number of people to protect the safety of the villa area. I'll go too. Yi Dingdang impatiently rushed into the transmission array. Wu Wu followed her closely and disappeared together. The situation on the island is still unclear. Don't send too many people. We have to believe in Tang Zheng and wait for his news. Tian Chanzi saw that the other girls were also impatient to chase after him, and hurriedly spoke up to stop them. The few of them were anxious, but in the end, they restrained their impulses and paced back and forth in front of the transmission array. On the island, when Tang Zheng walked out of the transmission array, what he saw made his anger rise even higher. The originally beautiful island that was like a paradise had become a living hell. Tall trees had fallen to the ground, burning with flames and emitting black smoke. He quickly rushed forward. He did not see any witch clan members, nor did he see any corpses. He only saw a lot of blood on the ground. There are no corpses. Perhaps it's a good situation. It means that they're not dead. Tang Zheng comforted himself. However, he was also very clear that this was a fluke. The real situation was probably far more serious than he had imagined. This island was not big. Tang Zheng had been here several times and was already familiar with it. Therefore, he quickly arrived at the place where the witch clan lived. He stopped in his tracks. There was no longer a good house in front of him. It had all turned into a pile of ruins, burning with raging flames and emitting black smoke. Bang! 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 A burst of hurried footsteps came from behind him. Tang Zheng did not turn his head. He knew that the others had caught up. Sure enough, these people stopped in their tracks and stared blankly at the scene in front of them. Their anger also surged up. Too miserable. The witch clan's home had been destroyed. In the past, there had been so much laughter here, but now, it had become like this. Any one of the parties found it difficult to suppress their anger. A few of the witch clan members became even more agitated. They rushed into the ruins as if they had gone mad. The raging flames were unable to stop their footsteps. They called out the names of their family and friends again and again, but no one answered. Only the crackling sound of the burning house could be heard. The sea breeze blew, blowing the smell of smoke and dust, as well as the stench of blood, stimulating people's nerves. Chapter 1301. The sea breeze blew as if it was crying. The witches were sobbing in a low voice, looking around helplessly. Wu walked forward step by step. Bang! His legs bent, and he also knelt on the ground. He muttered to himself in a daze. Where are the people? Where are the people of the martial organization? Those who followed Wu Junshan and left the martial organization had been living on the island. The martial organization had always been isolated from the rest of the world. Even after they left the martial organization, they did not integrate into the outside world. Instead, they concentrated on cultivating on the island. Because of the attack of the island nation Yamata no Orochi, the martial organization suffered heavy losses. In the end, only a few people were left. Without a doubt, these people who followed Wu Junshan were all his confidants. They had been together with him day and night. Naturally, their feelings were not shallow. This time, the island seemed to have been wiped out. The people of the martial organization were also in danger. How could Wu stay out of it? Her mood could be imagined. Seeing Wu kneeling on the ground as if he had lost his parents. How could Tang Zheng not understand her thoughts? He quickly helped her up and comforted her. Wu, we haven't found them yet. We can't make a conclusion. Don't worry. Wu raised his head listlessly and said weakly, they're all gone. Tang Zheng frowned. He did not know how to comfort her. Especially the other witches, their relatives and friends were all gone. The grief in their hearts was indescribable. Gui Qiansui, come out for me. Tang Zheng lifted his foot and fiercely stomped it as he roared with a booming voice. After waiting for a while, a weak voice sounded. Master. Gui Qiansui had already recognized Tang Zheng as his master. Hearing his master's call, he finally spoke. This island was formed by Gui Qiansui. Since the island was still there, Gui Qiansui was naturally there too. He must have witnessed everything that happened on the road. Where are the people? Where are the people on this island? Hearing Gui Qiansui's voice, Tang Zheng asked angrily. Cough cough. Gui Qiansui coughed and said weakly. Master, your subordinate is useless. I couldn't protect them. They were killed by the enemy. Those who were killed, and those who were captured. When they heard these words, they felt as if they were struck by lightning. Their bodies trembled violently, and their complexions became extremely pale. What did you say? Tang Zheng asked in a deep voice. Gui Qiansui's voice trembled. The martial organization's people were all killed. Ah! A shriek of despair rang out. It was heart-wrenching. Marshall had never lost his composure like this before. He almost fainted. Tang Zheng hurriedly supported her. Yi Dingdang also hurriedly helped and hugged her shoulders. They were all killed. Yes. Gui Qiansui hesitated and answered honestly. Tang Zheng's heartstrings trembled. There was a boom in his brain, as if it had exploded. He had a deep relationship with the martial sect. Although he did not have much contact with the martial sect, because of Martial Jun Mountain, the relationship between the two parties deepened day by day. Wu Junshan and his wife had left quietly. Naturally, the people of the martial order had been entrusted to him. However, he had failed to protect these people. Instead, he had caused all of them to die. No matter what, he could not absolve himself from the blame. He struggled to restrain the guilt in his heart. His voice trembled as he asked, "Where are they?" If they were alive, he wanted to see them. If they were dead, he wanted to see their corpses. Although these people were dead, he could not let their corpses be exposed in the wilderness. On the beach, Tang Zheng's expression turned cold. Previously, he had searched around the island but did not go to the beach. Marshall suddenly stood up and crazily rushed to the beach. When the others saw this, they all chased after her. From afar, they could see people lying on the beach. It made their hearts tighten. Marshall quickly came to a person and squatted down to check. There was no sign of life. She was unwilling and quickly checked the others. Her busy figure came back and forth on the beach. Each time, there was more despair in her eyes. The grief between her eyebrows was more intense. Finally, she stopped and knelt on the beach. She looked up to the sky and shouted, "Why?" Tang Zheng walked to her side with heavy steps and squatted down. He held her hand and looked at her with tears in his eyes. "Marshall, I swear to you that I will definitely avenge them. Even if I die, even if I have to go to the ends of the earth, I will still kill them." Tang Zheng said resolutely with killing intent. Marshall finally turned her head and threw herself into his embrace. Her entire body trembled as she choked with sobs and said, "You must avenge them." Tang Zheng nodded his head heavily, looking at the corpses on the beach, his killing intent soaring. The martial sect was completely annihilated, but it was strange that he did not see a single witch. His voice was low as he suppressed his anger and asked, "Gui Qiansui, where are the witches?" "They've all been taken away." "Who is it? Who the hell did all of this?" Tang Zheng was about to explode as he roared. "Demon Clan. Demon Clan?" Tang Zheng gritted his teeth. He had never thought that the Demon Clan would actually attack the witches. Suddenly his heart was enlightened. Although the island was hidden, Chiyu had lived in his body for so long that he knew a lot about the island. Chiyu's cunning and strength were beyond doubt. If he tried his best to find the island, although it would take him a lot of effort, it would not be difficult for him. Who is the person who came? A team led by a very ugly woman. Her strength is very strong. Gui Qiansui said with lingering fear. Lu Wuxin. Tang Zheng and Empyrean Fairy said in unison. Empyrean Fairy had been silent, but at this moment she finally opened her mouth. Lu Wuxin spent a lot of effort to capture the witches. What is his purpose? Tang Zheng also had the same question. However, Chiyu knew a lot about him, but he did not know much about Chiyu. At least, this time he could not guess Chiyu's motive. Since it was Lu Wuxin who led the team to attack, they were naturally well prepared. Although the witches were strong, compared with the returning elites of the Demon Clan, they were still a little inferior. Not to mention, the enemy had Lu Wuxin, a master in charge. "Where's the Thundercloud Beast?" Tang Zheng asked. The Thundercloud Beast was very strong. It was specially left to protect the island. Did the Thundercloud Beast not play any role? The Thundercloud Beast fought desperately, but the enemy was too strong. In the end, the Thundercloud Beast was seriously injured and fell into a coma. "Where is it?" Hearing that the Thundercloud Beast was not dead, Tang Zheng quickly asked. "In a cave. I tried my best to save its life," Gui Qiansui said. Gui Qiansui's strength was not shallow, and his vitality was tenacious. Perhaps, in the end, Lu Wuxin also found that there was no way to kill him immediately. Tang Zheng's anger towards Gui Qiansui also calmed down. He did not sit idly by, but he really did not have the strength to do so. "Let's go find the Thundercloud Beast." Tang Zheng made a prompt decision. The Thundercloud Beast was seriously injured, so it was more important to heal it first. Yi Dingdang stayed behind to accompany Wu, while the others and Tang Zheng went to a hidden cave. Sure enough, they saw the Thundercloud Beast lying on the ground, dying. "Thundercloud Beast." Tang Zheng rushed forward and hugged it. The Thundercloud Beast slowly opened its eyes and said, "Master, you came. I did not protect them well." "Don't talk. You tried your best. Your injuries are very serious." Tang Zheng's heart tightened. The Thundercloud Beast's injuries were more serious than he expected. "I won't die for the time being," the Thundercloud Beast said weakly. Tang Zheng hugged the Thundercloud Beast and looked left and right. It was a tragic sight. He made a decision in his heart. Gui Qiansui turned into an island, and drifted on the sea was not safe. In the future, he could not put them on an island. This was putting his own people under the eyes of the enemy as live targets. He thought too simply before, which led to this tragic ending. He would never make the same mistake twice. Gui Qiansui, you leave with us. There is no need for this island to exist. Tang Zheng said in a deep voice. Gui Qiansui said in fear and trepidation. Master, this is all because of my incompetence. Please punish me. It's not your fault. You did your best. From now on, we will gather together. We can't give the enemy a chance to take advantage of us. Empyrean Fairy looked at Tang Zheng's firm eyes and secretly sighed. This matter could not be said to be a small blow to him. The demon race committed such a crime. She was afraid that they would suffer the consequences. Tang Zheng was a very persistent person. He was also a person who clearly distinguished between kindness and hatred. Because of him, the witch race was annihilated. How would he explain it to Wu Junshan in the future? Therefore, the anger and hatred in his heart were increasing day by day. It was hard to imagine. You can rest assured that we will fight side by side with you. We will ruthlessly attack the demon race's arrogance. Empyrean Fairy comforted. Tang Zheng looked at her and nodded heavily, saying, Thank you. But we can't guess the demon race's motive. They have spent so much effort. Their motive is certainly not simple. We don't know what they are planning. Empyrean Fairy sighed in annoyance. Tang Zheng was moved and asked, Gui Qiansui, is it true that none of the witches died? Yes, none of the witches died. They just took them away. Some who resisted strongly were only injured. They clearly had the opportunity to kill them, but in the end, the demon race did not do so. Gui Qiansui was very puzzled, but he could not figure out the mystery. Tang Zheng and Empyrean Fairy looked at each other. A huge question mark appeared in their minds. The demon race did not kill the witches. It meant that the witches were still useful. The witches were the origin of the ancient Jiuli tribe. It was equivalent to the origin of the demon race. Although they were declining now, their status was not ordinary. Qiyu ruled the witches. At the end of his life, he even sealed the witches in the 100,000 mountains. What was the purpose of this painstaking effort? Was it just to protect the witches? Qiyu killed people like flax. Would he be so kind? Tang Zheng did not think so. Qiyu must have another purpose. But for a moment, Tang Zheng could not figure it out. You don't have to guess. Qiyu has always been cunning. Like the Yellow Emperor, he is not easy to deal with. If you fight with him, you can't win if you don't have a few tricks up your sleeve. The inner demon suddenly said. Chapter 1302. There was a mistake in the previous chapter. It was Qiyu's men who kidnapped the Wu tribe, not Lu Wuxin. Here I'll correct it. The inner demon snorted and said, How can I not see through Qiyu's motives? Although he is cunning, I have been fighting with him for so many years. I can guess what he is up to when he makes the slightest move. Tang Zheng was moved and asked impatiently, Then what do you think Qiyu wants to do this time? Do you remember what Wuxia said to you? The inner demons asked. Tang Zheng was suspicious. He raised his eyebrows and asked, What? Qiyu must have a backup plan. Wuxia's vision is very accurate. Qiyu must have a backup plan. A crafty rabbit has 3 burrows. This is his style. Otherwise, why would he be able to make a comeback after tens of thousands of years after his defeat in the Battle of Zhuolu? The inner demons said proudly. Tang Zheng nodded in realization. The inner demons was right. Qiyu was a crafty rabbit with 3 burrows. No one could compare to his ability to have a backup plan. What does Wuxia's words have to do with the disappearance of the witch tribe? Tang Zheng was still confused. Stupid, you can't even guess it. The witch tribe is Qiyu's backup plan. The inner demons sighed. What? Tang Zheng let out a loud cry and almost jumped up from the ground. No matter how much he thought about it, he did not expect this at all. Because this was truly too inconceivable. If it wasn't for the fact that it came from the mouth of the inner demon, Tang Zheng would have thought that the other party was spouting nonsense. When the others saw Tang Zheng's reaction, they quickly asked what was wrong. Tang Zheng shook his head and continued to communicate with the inner demons. Although you have taken the Wu tribe for your own use, you don't understand the Wu tribe at all. The Wu tribe is the origin of the Zhuli tribe, and it is one of the oldest tribes. Its mysteriousness is far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Back then, when Qiyu was defeated and was about to die, why did you not care about the lives of other people and specially imprison the shamans, so that the bloodline of the shamans could be passed down? He was not being merciful or acting on a whim. Tang Zheng pondered as he listened. He had to admit that the inner demons were very meticulous in their deductions. Qiyu might really have other plans. The continuation of the sorcerer tribe was one of Qiyu's chess pieces. However, Qiyu did not expect that there would be a change tens of thousands of years later, allowing Tang Zheng to take the sorcerer tribe under his command. The witch tribe was the earliest race to live in the wildlands. That's why I speculated that the disappearance of the witch tribe had something to do with Qiyu's backup plan. The inner demons continued. Do you believe me now? Tang Zheng remained silent. In fact, he was skeptical, but the balance had already tipped in the direction of trust. The inner demons had already guessed Tang Zheng's thoughts. He laughed and said, "Let's wait and see. You can see whether my deduction is right or wrong." Obviously, the inner demons were very confident in their deduction. Seeing Tang Zheng's uncertain expression, the Empyrean fairy had an idea and asked curiously, "Did you find something?" "Maybe. The disappearance of the witch tribe has something to do with Qiyu's backup plan about the wildlands," Tang Zheng said after some consideration. The Empyrean fairy was shocked and asked in horror, "Really?" "Most likely." Tang Zheng nodded. The Empyrean fairy fell into silence, thinking about the validity of this information. Tang Zheng did not hide anything and told her about the origin of the witch tribe and Qiyu's plan in the face of danger. The Empyrean fairy's doubtful eyes gradually became firm. She raised her head and looked at Tang Zheng with burning eyes and said, "It seems that this possibility really can't be ruled out. Qiyu and the demon race are ruthless. If they really plan to use the witch tribe to reappear the wildlands, it definitely won't be a good idea. I'm afraid that the witch tribe will be doomed," Tang Zheng analyzed. Everyone could not help but think of the various ruthless methods of the demon race. Whether it was using the lives of the demon race to awaken the volcano in the Holy Land, or using the mountain river blood sacrifice array to summon the demon race back. All these deeds were undoubtedly stained with blood and countless lives. It was very likely that they used a similar method to use the lives of the witch tribe to reappear the wildlands. This was just a guess, but it made everyone's mood instantly heavy, as if a huge stone was pressing down on them. "We must find Qiyu as soon as possible," Tang Zheng said without hesitation. "Let's go back first." The transmission array flashed and a group of people walked out. With a bang, the transmission array in the backyard of the villa was destroyed. Because the transmission array on the other side was also destroyed, Gui Qiansui returned to the villa with them. The others quickly surrounded them. When they saw Tang Zheng's gloomy face, as well as the witch tribe and the martial race's painful appearance, everyone's heart tightened. What happened? Tian Chanzi had an ominous premonition, especially when he saw Gui Qiansui and the dying thundercloud beast, so he couldn't wait to ask. Before Tang Zheng could answer, a person rushed out of the villa and threw himself in front of Tang Zheng. With a plop, he knelt on the ground and shouted loudly, "Lord Envoy, I beg you to save the elders and the other clansmen." Seeing Yi Yuan kneeling on the ground, Tang Zheng felt as if he had been pricked. He immediately helped him up and said, "Your injuries are not completely healed yet. Don't move around lest your wounds rupture again." Yi Yuan kept shaking his head and said, "My clansmen are still fighting with the enemy. How can I, Yi Yuan, be at ease and recuperate?" Suddenly, Yi Yuan saw Gui Qiansui and the thundercloud beast. His eyes bulged out, and he said involuntarily, "Lord Envoy, you have already been to the island? What about them?" Looking left and right, he did not see a single clansman who was fighting side by side with him. His face instantly turned pale, as if he was about to suffocate. His entire body trembled as he asked in fear, "Could it be they?" Tang Zheng firmly grabbed onto Yi Yuan's shoulder and said, "Listen to me. Your clansmen are not in danger for the time being. They were only captured by Qiyu. Qiyu took him away? Yi Yuan turned pale with fright. Qiyu was the ancestor of the witch clan, and this was something that the witch clan was very clear about. In fact, the clansmen had even gone through an intense discussion. After Qiyu revived, where would the witch clan go? In the end, the witch clan followed Tang Zheng as usual. As for Qiyu, that was already an old history. After tens of thousands of years of seclusion, the witch clan's inheritance of their own origins had been broken, causing the witch clan to not have much respect for the ancestor of Qiyu. Actually, this was also a normal thing. Time was the most powerful weapon. It could change many things, and nothing would remain the same. I'm afraid that Qiyu's original plan did not predict this either. Why did they capture my clansmen? Yi Yuan asked fiercely, his hatred for Qiyu increasing greatly. We speculate that it has something to do with the Savage Wastelands plan. Tang Zheng briefly explained the matter of the Savage Wasteland. Of course, he also explained the possible harm this matter could cause to the witch clan. Immediately, Yi Yuan's eyes were about to spit fire. He clenched his fists tightly, his joints crackling as he said, I'm going to save him. Yes. Don't worry, I will find Qiyu's whereabouts and save them. Tang Zheng's words were very full. He was still in a mess, but he had made up his mind. The witch clan had always been loyal to him. If he pointed to the east, the witch clan would definitely not go west. This trust was rare and precious. How could he let it down? Envoy the enemy. When the time comes, I want to go with you, Yi Yuan said. Let's go together. The eyes of the other witch clan members turned red. They forcefully suppressed the grief in their hearts and said resolutely, All right, let's go together and fight with Qiyu. Tang Zheng raised his hand. We will definitely save our clansmen. Save the clansmen. The witch clan members were greatly encouraged. They all raised their arms. The crowd was filled with anger and shouted loudly, Li Xiaotian. Suddenly, Tang Zheng shouted, Here. Li Xiaotian took a step forward with a stern expression. Tang Zheng stared at her without blinking, and said in a deep voice, Use Li Palace, Yan family and any other power that can be used to search for the whereabouts of the witch clan and Qiyu. Qiyu has kidnapped so many people. I don't believe that he won't reveal any clues. Yes, sir. Li Xiaotian straightened his body, and without saying a word, he turned around and left the villa to carry out this difficult mission. Yi Yuan and the other witch clan members all looked at Li Xiaotian's back, full of anticipation. Don't worry, we are also very powerful. We have many eyes and ears, so we will definitely find some clues. Tang Zheng comforted. The witch clan members all nodded their heads, looking at Tang Zheng with eyes full of trust. From this moment onwards, those who paid attention would definitely notice that the atmosphere in the capital had instantly changed. There were many more people in the streets and alleys. The same situation occurred all over the country. Whether it was the Li Palace or the Yan family, their forces and eyes were spread throughout the entire country. Once they started to operate, their influence was self-evident. When the others saw such a large-scale operation, they could not guess the reason, and no one dared to interfere. This was because this operation was filled with anger and killing intent. A smart person would know with a single glance that hiding far away was the most important thing. This operation attracted the attention of all parties. The authorities and the Azure Dragon Palace were the first to notice it. Both sides sent out spies to find out what Tang Zheng was up to. In the end, they found out that Tang Zheng was actually looking for the whereabouts of the Demon Clan and Qiyu. Both sides became curious. Both sides were not easy to deal with. They both sent out spies and used all their strength to search for the whereabouts of the Demon Clan. All of this investigation was done in an orderly manner. With the help of all sorts of high technology, the progress was very fast. At the same time, Tang Zheng healed the injuries of the Thundercloud Beast and Gui Qiansui. After that, he locked himself in his room alone. Everyone else knew that the great battle was coming. He was trying to use the last bit of time to increase his strength as much as possible. The others also started to move. All of them went into seclusion to increase their cultivation and prepare for the upcoming great battle. In the villa, the air was filled with a murderous aura, emitting an aura that prevented strangers from entering. in the Shumi world. For symbols venerable, Tang Zheng called out, but the four symbols venerable did not react at all. During the Great Battle of Mount Buzhou, the four symbols venerable had been tampered with by the Saint King, and turned into a statue that did not move at all. The telepathic connection between Tang Zheng and the four symbols venerable was also completely cut off. No matter how he called out, the four symbols venerable did not move. Chapter 1303. Despite the calls, the four symbols venerable remained motionless, no different from an ordinary stone statue. Looking up at the four symbols venerable's tall figure, Tang Zheng let out a long sigh, recalling the scene of the battle at Mount Buzhou. Saint King had turned the four symbols venerable into such a state during the battle, so he must have hit the back door of the four symbols venerable. Then where exactly was this back door? Tang Zheng looked left and right. Suddenly he had a flash of inspiration and exclaimed, "Oh right, I remember that when Saint King flew to the back of the four symbols venerable's head, the four symbols venerable immediately became like this. Could it be that the back door is at the back of the head?" With a tap of his toes, he soared into the air and landed on the four symbols venerable's shoulder, concentrating on the back of the head. He could not find any clues. He was unwilling to give up. How could he let go of such a small clue that he had finally found? He reached out his hand and felt around the back of the head. He was certain that the back door must be at this place. Crack. When his finger brushed past a place, a crisp sound rang out. He was overjoyed and hurriedly looked over. A small door slowly opened. He had never noticed that there was a small door at the back of the four symbols venerable's head. He could not help but be stunned. Finally, his gaze gradually turned solemn as he muttered to himself. "You never told me that the four symbols venerable had such a back door." Humph, as expected of a sly old fox. He concentrated on looking inside the small door, but could not see anything except endless darkness. He did not give up. With a snap of his fingers, purple true fire emerged from his fingertips, attempting to illuminate everything inside the door. However, the light of the true fire could not penetrate the darkness. It was as if there was an invisible force binding the light of the true fire. This, Tang Zheng was shocked. Even light could not penetrate the door. The inside of the door was too deep and unpredictable. This is abnormal. There must be something fishy. Tang Zheng stared at the door with a burning gaze. It was too small for a person to squeeze in. He hesitated for a moment, but still reached out his hand. He did not feel anything inside the door. It was an empty space. He withdrew his hand in disappointment. Was he going to give up just like that? The four symbols venerable was of great use to him, and he was also the guardian of the shaman tribe. If he was crippled just like that, he would not be able to explain it to the shaman tribe. Never give up. He clenched his teeth and stared at the door. The deep darkness seemed to want to suck him in. Suddenly, a ray of light flashed through his mind like lightning, and he subconsciously blurted out, "The primal chaos Vajra spell is the only sacred art that the witch clan cultivates, and has been passed down since ancient times. The other sacred arts have all been buried in the long river of history, so why is it that only the primal chaos Vajra spell has been passed down?" This question was like a stepping stone to the door, causing his eyes to gradually shine. He pondered for a while, then extended his hand again. This time, he activated the primal chaos Vajra spell, and his arm glowed with a metallic luster. His primal chaos Vajra spell had already been cultivated to the great perfection realm, which was the indestructible body. Therefore, after circulating the primal chaos Vajra spell, he once again boldly extended his hand through the small door. Whoosh! A powerful force wrapped around his hand, and a huge suction force enveloped him in an instant. Before he could react, he cried out in alarm and started to spin rapidly. Like a spinning top, he was sucked into the small door. However, he had no way of passing through such a small door. However, the huge suction force firmly held on to him, causing his body to sink into the door bit by bit. Crack crack. His bones rubbed against each other, producing an ear-piercing sound. He let out a heart-wrenching scream. as if his body was about to be torn apart. The primal chaos Vajra spell immediately activated, resisting the tearing force and the pressure of the door. In the end, his body actually shrank by several times. With a puff, he passed through the small door and entered the pitch-black space. If my primal chaos Vajra spell had not been cultivated to the indestructible realm, then I would have definitely been crushed to pieces. He patted his chest with lingering fear. Ouch! He couldn't help but let out a blood-curdling scream. Although the indestructible body had saved his life, he was still injured. All the bones in his body were squeezed out of shape, as if they were about to fall apart. He took a deep breath and hurriedly circulated his genuine qi along his meridians, slowly nourishing his muscles and bones, causing them to return to their original position. At his level of cultivation, this kind of injury was not enough to take his life. After some treatment, it would not be a big problem. This was just like how the 100 Faces Star Lord had lost a leg in the great battle of the island nation, but after a period of recuperation, he had grown another leg. It was not impossible for a cultivator to regenerate a broken leg, especially since the 100 Faces Star Lord was good at changing. He could even change into tall, short, fat, and thin people, so it was not difficult for him to recover his broken leg. Not long after, he finished healing his injuries and stared at the pitch-black space with wide eyes. I'm afraid this is like Shumi World, another space. Only the primal chaos Vajra spell is the key to opening this space. Of course, if the primal chaos Vajra spell had not been cultivated to the indestructible realm, there was no way to safely pass through that door. This condition is really harsh. I wonder who came up with it. Tang Zheng muttered to himself, his heart filled with questions. The Four Symbols Venerable One had once obeyed Qiyu's orders, and was Qiyu's subordinate. Then, Qiyu definitely knew about this door, and Saint King could not wait to take back the Four Symbols Venerable One. Could it be that the Four Symbols Venerable One had some great use? Although the Four Symbols Venerable One was powerful, Qiyu had a lot of elites under his command. Why would Saint King do everything he could to take back the Four Symbols Venerable One? The answer might be in this place. Tang Zheng raised his eyes and looked ahead. Although he could not see his fingers, he chose a direction and walked forward. His speed was very fast, and he was not worried about any traps. This space seemed to have no end, and he advanced for a long time without finding anything. For Symbols Venerable One, Tang Zheng stopped and roared, trying to communicate with the Four Symbols Venerable One again. Master! A voice suddenly rang out. This voice was very weak, but it was undoubtedly the voice of the Four Symbols Venerable One. This voice had resounded in Tang Zheng's mind countless times, so he definitely did not mishear it. He was overjoyed. He never thought that he would actually get a response to his call. In the past, this voice had only resounded in his mind, but now this voice was resounding in his ears. For Symbols Venerable One, how can I save you? Tang Zheng hurriedly asked. I'm trapped in the endless darkness. I can't go back, the Four Symbols Venerable said weakly. Do you know you have a back door? I don't. Tang Zheng was suddenly stunned. Even the Four Symbols Venerable did not know about the back door. It was too strange. Could it be that this was a back door set up by Qiyu that even the Four Symbols Venerable One did not know? This was indeed a possibility. No matter what the reason was, the most important thing was to save the Four Symbols Venerable One. The endless darkness. Could it be the darkness around me? Tang Zheng looked around and asked in a low voice. Yes. You and I are actually very close, but I can't touch you, nor can I return to my own body. I've been banished to this endless darkness. Don't worry, I'll save you. Thank you, Master. Tang Zheng spoke big words, but he was actually worried. How could he save the Four Symbols Venerable One when he was in the dark? I've been drifting here for a long time, and I'm getting weaker and weaker. I'm worried that if this goes on, I'll definitely vanish into thin air. The Four Symbols Venerable said weakly. Tang Zheng's heart trembled. The Four Symbols Venerable One was a sacred artifact, so this voice was naturally the artifact spirit of the Four Symbols Venerable One. Once the artifact spirit left the sacred artifact, it was equivalent to a person's soul leaving their body, becoming a wandering ghost. The more time passed, the more the artifact's spirit would be exhausted. In the end, it would be difficult for the artifact's spirit to return to the sacred artifact. Even if it did, the sacred artifact would probably be affected, and its power would decrease. Thinking of this, Tang Zheng's heart could not help but tense up. He racked his brains. Although the Four Symbols Venerable One did not know about the back door, this back door was obviously related to the Witch Clan's chaotic Vajra spell. Why did Qiyu set up a back door, set the key to the chaotic Vajra spell, and then hand it over to the Witch Clan? No, I might have been wrong. This back door might not have been set up by Qiyu. Perhaps it was set up by someone else. For Symbols Venerable One, who created you? Tang Zheng hurriedly asked. I don't know, but I've lived for a long time. I don't remember how long it has been. The Four Symbols Venerable One said in a daze. Then do you know Qiyu? Yes, I once fought for him. He was one of my former masters. What, one of the masters? Tang Zheng's eyes flashed with a bright light, and he quickly and accurately grasped onto a key point. Wrong, all wrong, he shouted from the bottom of his heart. You weren't created by Qiyu? No. Hearing this definite answer, Tang Zheng also understood in his heart that everything he had always known had been overturned. The origins of the Four Symbols Venerable One were far more complicated than he had imagined. It was not created by Qiyu, but an even more ancient existence. This could explain why the key to the back door of the Four Symbols Venerable One was the chaotic Vajra spell. It was because this was not a back door that Qiyu had set up, but one that already existed. Perhaps, this could also explain why Qiyu had only protected the Witch Clan when he was in danger, and did not care about the lives of the others. The Four Symbols Venerable One was the guardian of the Witch Clan, and had a deep relationship with the Witch Clan. There was probably a mysterious connection between the two that Tang Zheng did not know about. Qiyu had schemed to kidnap the Witch Clan, and also wanted to snatch away the Four Symbols Venerable One. From the looks of it, his intentions were too obvious. He wanted to take both for himself. Other than the plan for the Savage Wasteland, he might have other plans. Qiyu, oh Qiyu, you are truly a cunning old fox. Tang Zheng sighed. For Symbols Venerable One, since you know that Qiyu was once your master, why did you follow me and not him? My current master is you. I only listen to your orders. The Four Symbols Venerable One replied without hesitation. This made Tang Zheng secretly happy. After experiencing the betrayal of the War Soul Sword, and the matter of it being taken away, Tang Zheng became even more vigilant. Qiyu was the best at burying thunder, and leaving behind a backup plan. If he was not careful, he would fall into the other party's trap. Chapter 1304. Tang Zheng was filled with suspicion. He was bewildered and asked, If Qiyu orders you to deal with me, then what will you do? Master, I only listen to your orders. The Four Symbols Venerable repeated and emphasized. Tang Zheng became silent, his mind raced, and in the end he made a decision saying, Since the chaotic Vajra spell is the key, there is no other way. Let's see if the chaotic Vajra spell can create another miracle. Tang Zheng once again activated the chaotic Vajra spell, his entire body glowing with a golden light, like a golden man overflowing with light. The golden light shone brightly, but it was unable to illuminate the surroundings. Instead, the golden light was engulfed by the darkness. The chaotic Vajra spell is not working. Tang Zheng sighed in disappointment. The golden light gradually dissipated, and the darkness returned, enveloping him. However, he still did not give up. This space was related to the Witch Clan, so he could only experiment with abilities related to the Witch Clan or the Demon Clan. And he just so happened to be good at another Demon Clan's ability, Sky Swallowing Method. With a thought, he activated the Sky Swallowing Method, and a black hole appeared in his hand. It was even deeper than the surrounding darkness, as if the surrounding darkness was about to be devoured by the black hole. Whoosh whoosh. A strong suction force gushed out, and a strong wind blew, causing the surrounding air to quickly enter the black hole. This was a normal phenomenon, so Tang Zheng was not surprised at all. However, the next scene caused his heartstrings to tremble, and he couldn't help but open his mouth wide. The surrounding darkness was actually swallowed by the black hole. Although both sides were incomparably dark and hard to see with the naked eye, Tang Zheng could still feel it. Did it work? Tang Zheng muttered to himself with a trembling voice. No one answered him. Only the sound of the wind could be heard. For symbols venerable, are you feeling better? Tang Zheng asked loudly. Master, what are you doing? It seems like the power binding me has weakened. The four symbols venerable shouted in surprise. It really worked. Tang Zheng almost jumped up. It was truly a pleasant surprise. The chaotic Vajra spell did not work, but the sky-swallowing method actually worked. The sky-swallowing method has always been disliked by the demon clan, and was considered useless because the sky-swallowing method had lost its core. Then who created the sky-swallowing method? And when was it created? No one knew the answer to this question. At this moment, the sky-devouring technique had taken effect, causing Tang Zheng to involuntarily think, could it be that the sky-devouring technique was also related to the witch tribe? Or even that the sky-devouring technique was created by a certain expert in the witch tribe? Furthermore, this space was also related to the sky-devouring technique, which was why the sky-devouring technique was able to take effect. Tang Zheng was shocked by his own deduction, but he also felt that it was very interesting, which made him excited. He shook his head, tossed aside these miscellaneous thoughts, and immersed himself in the sky-swallowing technique. Immediately, the power of the sky-swallowing technique increased greatly. The two black holes merged into one, becoming a huge black hole. The wind howled, and the surrounding darkness was quickly sucked into the black hole. A trace of haziness appeared in the surroundings. There was nothing in the surroundings, but it wasn't that dark anymore, turning into a dusky haze. Master, the binding force is getting weaker and weaker. I can feel a weak connection with my body. The four symbols warrior cheered. Tang Zheng was greatly encouraged and beamed with joy. He took a deep breath and used all his power to activate the sky-swallowing technique. The dusky surroundings turned white, and in the end, it even became transparent. At the same time, Tang Zheng clearly sensed that the suction force of the black hole had increased greatly. The endless darkness that was being absorbed had increased the power of the sky-devouring technique. This was really a pleasant surprise, causing Tang Zheng to absorb everything even more hungrily. Crack! A crisp cracking sound was heard. Tang Zheng was shocked. He looked around and realized that cracks had appeared in the space in all directions. These cracks were like spider webs, instantly covering all the space. The cracking sounds became more and more frequent, rising and falling one after another. Finally, with a bang, the space was fragmented and trembling violently. Ah! Tang Zheng couldn't help but cry out in alarm, because he was rapidly falling down, as if he was falling into an endless abyss. Bang! His feet finally landed on the ground. He quickly steadied his mind and looked up, only to find that for some reason, he had actually come out of the four symbols venerable's body and returned to Sumeru world. He stood in front of the four symbols venerable, and looked up at this colossal creature. All of this was extremely mysterious, causing his mind to surge. He raised his head and stared at his palm without blinking. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two black holes suddenly appeared, and the sky-devouring technique automatically operated. Boom! A gust of wind rose from the ground, and Sumeru world actually trembled violently, as if the space was about to shatter. Ah! Tang Zheng was shocked, and quickly stopped the technique. The black holes disappeared, and Sumeru world stabilized again. He looked at his hands in disbelief and muttered to himself. The sky-devouring technique actually broke through again, reaching the sea-shifting realm. The mountain-shifting realm was already amazing, especially since Tang Zheng had already practiced it. When he moved Mount Buzhou, he was also shocked. The sea-shifting realm was a level higher, and could even threaten the space of Sumeru world. Its power was so strong that it made people raise their eyebrows. I'm afraid that after I absorbed the mysterious space behind the four symbols warrior's head, the sky-devouring technique's power increased greatly. Immediately, he was even more certain that the sky-devouring technique was related to the shaman tribe. Master! The four symbols warrior's voice sounded in his mind, attracting his attention. He raised his head and saw that the four symbols warrior was also looking down. Their eyes met, and the four symbols warrior's originally lifeless stone eyes were covered with a layer of mysterious luster, as if they were lifelike eyeballs. "You're fine?" Tang Zheng asked in surprise. "Yes, I've fused with my body again. Master, thank you," the four symbols warrior said with sincere gratitude. Tang Zheng stared and laughed loudly. "Ha ha ha, by accident, you can even succeed like this. This is truly a joyous occasion." "Master, I have other gains," the four symbols warrior suddenly said. "Gains?" Tang Zheng stared blankly and looked at it with shining eyes. "What gains?" "There has always been a seal on my body. When Master destroyed that space, my seal was also removed," the four symbols warrior said happily. The seal was removed? Tang Zheng was stunned, but he was ecstatic. Without a doubt, the four symbols warrior's power would definitely increase qualitatively after the seal was removed. The four symbols warrior seems to have become more talkative. Before he didn't say anything for half a day, but now he actually said so much in one breath. Could this be a change brought about by the removal of the seal? Tang Zheng clicked his tongue in wonder. "Who set up this seal?" "I don't know." "Then what changes have you undergone now?" "Let me take a look first. I still don't fully understand." The four symbols warrior was like a little confused, causing Tang Zheng to laugh involuntarily. I finally understand." Not long after, the four symbols warrior shouted loudly. Tang Zheng's attention was immediately attracted. "Master, look." The four symbols warrior shouted as if he was presenting a treasure. Tang Zheng opened his eyes wide and stared fixedly at the four symbols warrior. The four symbols warrior shrank rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, he was actually the size of a normal person. "I can shrink," the four symbols warrior said. Tang Zheng nodded blankly. "I already saw it. You can actually transform." He had always thought that the four symbols warrior could only take the form of a colossus. He didn't expect that he could change his size. This way, it would be much more convenient for the four symbols warrior to fight. In the past, because the four symbols warrior was too large, there were many narrow spaces where he couldn't be used. From now on, the four symbols warrior would be restricted by this restriction, and his range of use would greatly increase. "Master, I can also do this." The four symbols warrior shouted again, and walked towards Tang Zheng. Suddenly, the four symbols warrior turned left. The next scene caused Tang Zheng to cry out loudly. The four symbols venerable turned around, but there was still another four symbols venerable walking towards him. "Clone," Tang Zheng blurted out. As soon as he finished speaking, one of the clones turned right. In the end, when the four symbols warrior walked in front of Tang Zheng, he split into two, and then two more. The four symbols warrior split into four, and became four symbols warrior. Tang Zheng immediately thought of the four tall and mighty four symbols warrior standing in the square of the shaman tribe in the 100,000 mountains. The four symbols warrior was originally four, but later they merged into one, and their power increased greatly. From then on, they were almost never separated. This time, not only did the four symbols warrior shrink, but he could also create clones in this state. Most importantly, the strength of each clone was not reduced by much. This was a condition that the original gigantic four symbols warrior did not possess. In this way, he had four extremely powerful four symbols warrior. One could imagine how great of an advantage he would have when fighting against enemies in the future. Seeing that the four symbols warrior had stopped, Tang Zheng asked curiously, "Is there anything else?" "No more." After a pause, the four symbols warrior added, "However, I feel that my strength can still become stronger in the future." Tang Zheng raised his eyebrows, understanding the deeper meaning of this sentence. He asked, "You mean your strength can increase?" "Yes." The four nodded at the same time, as if they were one person, as if they were no different from real people. In the past, the four symbols warrior's strength was almost fixed. Other than when they merged into one and increased their strength, there was no change in their strength after that. However, the four symbols warrior could now increase his strength bit by bit. This change was undoubtedly the most valuable. This meant that the four symbols warrior's battle strength would become stronger in the future, and they would naturally be more helpful to Tang Zheng. For Symbol's warrior, you're really something. Tang Zheng was overjoyed, and he praised loudly without holding back. The four Symbol's warrior was like a child who had been praised. Joy actually appeared on all four of their faces at the same time. Not only had he found the four Symbol's warrior during this seclusion, he had also caused the four Symbol's warrior to undergo tremendous changes. In addition, the heaven-devouring technique had reached a new level, causing Tang Zheng's strength to increase greatly. This was a double blessing. His eyes shone brightly as he gnashed his teeth. Chi, you demon, just you wait. What you've taken from me, I'll take back 100 times, 1,000 times over. Roar. Chapter 1305. Hearing this deafening roar, Tang Zheng's eyelids twitched. His figure flashed as he charged in a certain direction. The four Symbol's venerables also chased after him without another word. Boom. With a loud bang, the ground of Sumeru world shook as if there was an earthquake. Tang Zheng cursed inwardly. In Sumeru heaven, only the Azura could cause such a huge commotion. After returning from the Battle of Mount Buzhou, the Azura had been recuperating. The Fornax formation had caused the Azura to be heavily injured, losing a great deal of Yin Qi. The Yang Qi in particular was like a stubborn disease that had been plaguing the Azura. However, Tang Zheng was quite at ease with the Azura, and had only allowed him to recuperate without paying too much attention. At this moment, hearing such a huge commotion, he realized that he had underestimated the Azura's injuries. In a flash, Tang Zheng and the four Symbol's venerables arrived at the area where the Azura was. With a boom, Sumeru heaven shook a few more times. Tang Zheng finally saw the Azura. The Azura was kneeling on the ground, his large fists pounding the ground again and again. This was the cause of the tremors. Seeing the Azura's appearance, there was no doubt that he was in great pain. This caused Tang Zheng's mood to sink. Azura! Tang Zheng cried out. The Azura suddenly raised his head, the expression in his eyes much weaker than before. There was no trace of his usual arrogance and insufferably arrogance. What's wrong with you? The Azura opened his mouth and let out another earth-shattering roar, saying intermittently, Yang Qi has entered my body and is haunting me. It's been devouring my Yin Qi. What? The Yang Qi still hasn't been completely refined? Tang Zheng was shocked and blurted out this question. The Azura shook his large head, saying, No, this Yang Qi is different from ordinary Yang Qi. This is the Yang Qi condensed by the Fornax formation, and is far more powerful than ordinary Yang Qi. It's like poison that has penetrated into every corner of my body. I have no place to absorb Yin Qi to increase my strength, so I can't suppress the Yang Qi at all, and let it do whatever it wants. The Azura explained his situation intermittently, but it caused Tang Zheng to tremble with fear. He had never thought that the aftereffects of the Fornax formation would be so terrifying. Shura was entrusted to him by the Dizong of Goguryeo. Moreover, he was one of his most capable generals. If anything happened to him, he wouldn't be able to answer to the Dizong of Goguryeo. Moreover, he would also suffer heavy losses. When he thought of this, his heart felt like it was being squeezed, and his face was as heavy as water. Master, this place is very dangerous. I will protect you. The four Symbol's venerable leaped in front of Tang Zheng, protecting him as he glared at Azura. That was indeed the case. The yang energy caused the Shura's evil aura to soar. He was like a ticking time bomb that could explode at any moment. No matter how powerful Tang Zheng was, there was still a large gap between him and Azura. The four Symbol's reverend wholeheartedly protected his master. He stood between the two without any regard for his own safety, preventing Tang Zheng from suffering an unpredictable danger. A touch of warmth flashed through Tang Zheng's heart. Without the seal, the four Symbol's venerable had indeed changed a lot. He was much more adorable. Seeing the four Symbol's venerable's reaction, the hostility in Azura's eyes increased greatly. He roared at the four Symbol's venerable, and violent Yin energy swept over like a tornado, filling the sky with sinister winds. Break! The four Symbol's venerables formed a solid wall. With a stomp of their feet, they extended their palms and pushed forward. A vast and mighty force rushed out with an earth-shattering momentum. The two forces collided, erupting with deafening explosions that caused Sumeru world to tremble incessantly. Seeing this, Tangjung hurriedly patted the four symbols' venerable's shoulder and said, "I'm fine. Don't worry, Azura can't hurt me." He had the Ksitigarbha Sutra to protect him. No matter how violent Azura was, he couldn't hurt him. Thus, he walked past the four symbols' venerable and arrived in front of Azura. Azura had transformed into a colossus. Even when kneeling on the ground, he was still much taller than Tangjung. When he stood in front of Azura, he was like a small child facing a towering mountain. He wasn't afraid at all. He pressed down with both hands and said, "Azura, don't be impatient. I'll solve your problem." "What solution do you have?" Azura roared impatiently. The sinister winds blew past Tangjung's clothes, causing them to flap loudly. Tangjung was unmoved. His expression was resolute as he said, "Of course I have a solution. You control your emotions. Let's fight against that annoying yang energy together." However, Azura didn't listen to his advice. He roared again and again. Tangjung was helpless. He shook his head and sighed. "You have too much evil in your heart. You can't control your emotions at the critical moment. Then I'll lend you a hand." With that, his expression was solemn. Like a Buddha statue, he chanted the Ksitigarbha Sutra. Golden burning runes flew out from his mouth one after another. The golden Sanskrit characters flew to the top of Azura's head and circled around. Finally, the Sanskrit characters formed a golden circle that descended from the sky and landed on Azura's head. Azura was startled. His movements slowed down subconsciously. His expression became much stiffer. That violent yin energy instantly calmed down. Tangjung didn't stop. He chanted the Ksitigarbha Sutra over and over again. Before long, Azura's entire body was covered in golden Sanskrit characters. It was like a golden kasaya, solemn and dignified. It completely concealed the terrifying yin energy. Azura was no longer irritable. He was like a docile kitten. Tangjung's heart stirred. As his cultivation increased, the Ksitigarbha Sutra's power also increased day by day. Especially when fighting against Azura, the Ksitigarbha Sutra's power was increasing. He was deeply moved by Dizang of Goguryu's strength. He actually created such a powerful divine ability. "Master, you're amazing. He's already been tamed." The four symbols' reverend was delighted as he praised loudly. The four symbols' reverend's originally stiff face became lively. It was as if the difference between him and a real person was becoming smaller and smaller. Tangjung shook his head and sighed. He hasn't been tamed. Especially the yang energy in his body. It's still constantly devouring his yin energy. This is like a chronic illness. Unless we find an effective method, it'll be extremely difficult to cure him. The Ksitigarbha Sutra controlled Azura's emotions, and also suppressed the yang energy. It reduced its power slightly, thus reducing Azura's pain. Azura raised his head once again. The madness in his eyes decreased sharply. He looked at Tangjung with burning eyes and said, "You're treating the symptoms but not the root cause. The yang energy is still in my body and will erupt again in the future. How despicable. If I see demons again, I'll definitely cut them into 8 pieces. Not only their physical bodies, but also their souls. I'll make sure their souls scatter." Azura's ruthlessness increased greatly. If it weren't for the golden Sanskrit characters, he might have gone berserk again. "Azura, don't be anxious. We'll think of a solution together." Tangjung comforted. "What solution do you have?" Azura asked impatiently. Tangjung suddenly had an idea and said, "Didn't you just say that you couldn't absorb the yin energy, causing the yang energy to become more and more rampant? If you can absorb the yin energy, doesn't that mean you have a way to refine the yang energy?" Azura's eyes lit up. He stared at Tangjung with burning eyes and said, "Perhaps we can give it a try." Azura wasn't sure, but treating a dead horse as a living one was not a bad idea. "All right, then you wait for a while. I'll go find a place where the yin energy gathers." Tangjung said impatiently. Azura stared straight at Tangjung. In the end he nodded. "I'll wait for you." The golden Sanskrit characters didn't disappear. They suppressed Azura and also helped him suppress the yang energy, reducing his pain. 4 symbols venerable, look after him. Tang Zheng instructed the 4 symbols venerable. The 4 symbols venerable nodded and looked at Azura without fear. Master, I'm here. Don't worry. Tang Zheng squeezed out a smile and turned to leave Sumeru world. When he returned to his room, he rushed out in a hurry and found Tian Chanzi. He shouted, Tian Chanzi, I have something to discuss with you. Tian Chanzi was also cultivating. When he heard his voice, he slowly opened his eyes. His eyes flashed as he stood up and said indifferently, How old are you? Why are you acting so rashly? What made you lose your composure like this? It's Azura. Tang Zheng explained Azura's situation. Tian Chanzi's expression also became serious. You're saying that the Fornax array left behind a residual effect in Azura's body, causing him to be plagued by yang energy? Yes, that's why I want to find a place where yin energy gathers and let Azura absorb it. Then, we'll see if he can refine the yang energy in his body. Tang Zheng nodded and said in a low voice. Tian Chanzi was also very clear about Azura's importance. Especially at a time like this when a great war was about to break out. Losing such a great general would definitely not be a good thing. You're the most familiar with the surrounding areas of the capital. You must know where the yin energy gathers the most. Tang Zheng said. Tian Chanzi nodded. Of course, such a small matter can't stump me. Actually, you've been there before. It's the place where I nurtured Huang Xiang. Today, Huang Xiang is still cultivating there. That place has been a great battlefield since ancient times. After all, it's a checkpoint for the north to attack the Central Plains Empire. Who knows how many people have died there? The yin energy there is the densest, so it's definitely suitable for Azura. Tang Zheng suddenly realized. In a moment of panic, he had almost forgotten about this place. Speaking of Huang Xiang, the memories came flooding back like a tide. Huang Xiang was once Tian Chanzi's puppet. He was very strong, and was later gifted to his disciple Fang Shishir by Tian Chanzi. Fang Shishir wasn't used to having someone following her around at all times, so she simply sent Azura to this place where yin energy gathers and let him cultivate alone. Tang Zheng had almost forgotten about Huang Xiang. Huang Xiang is a puppet, so his cultivation speed is already very fast. After staying there for so long, I wonder how his cultivation has improved. Tian Chanzi sighed. Huang Xiang was equivalent to one of his creations, so of course he would care. Then you'll go with me this time, and bring Huang Xiang back while you're at it. Tang Zheng immediately made a decision. Whether or not Azura can recover will depend on this. Huang Xiang is already Shishir's puppet, so of course he has to go with you. Tian Chanzi said lightly, fighting for the opportunity for his disciple to interact with Tang Zheng. No problem. Tang Zheng replied without hesitation. Soon the members of this operation gathered together. Apart from these 3 people, everyone else stayed at home. Chapter 1306. The cold wind howled, and the yin qi filled the sky. It was noon, and the sun was high in the sky, but it also made people feel a bone-chilling chill. In ancient times, this was a place that the military would fight for. It was a pass that one man could hold against 10,000 men, and it had experienced countless wars. However, no matter how strong the pass was, there was no way to truly resist foreign enemies. As long as one piled up human heads and lives, there would always be a way to break through the pass. Stepping on countless corpses, one could still cross the pass. History proved this point. Coming here again, Tang Zheng was even more emotional. After experiencing so many things in battles, his state of mind had undergone earth-shaking changes. Fang Shishir had once sent Huang Xiang here, so if it was her first time here, she would definitely be frightened by the yin qi. He held Tang Zheng's hand and said, No wonder this place is not too far from the capital, but it has always been abandoned. If there was no yin qi, I'm afraid it would have been turned into a tourist attraction by the developers. Tian Chanzi laughed and said, This is a very taboo place for the people of the capital. Absolutely no one dares to come here. Naturally, it led to this place being abandoned. Look at those weeds. They are taller than people. The few of them walked on the grass and flew on the grass. Naturally, they were not affected by the harsh environment. They walked as if they were flying, and came to the deepest part of the pass. Although it was almost autumn, the power of the autumn tiger was still great, and the heat was unbearable. But when they set foot in the deepest part of the pass, a bone-chilling chill hit their hearts. The few of them quickly resisted and dissolved the bone-chilling chill. The yin qi here is increasing day by day. It is a bit stronger than the last time I was here. It is almost the same as the yin qi in the ghost realm. Tang Zheng sighed. Tian Chanzi nodded. The yin qi is like this, especially with so many ghosts here. As their cultivation deepens day by day, the yin qi in this place will naturally become stronger. Tang Zheng suddenly understood. Have you noticed that the periphery of this area has changed a lot since the last time I was here? What changes? Tang Zheng and Tian Chanzi asked at the same time. The yin qi in the core area is too strong, and the plants can't grow, so it's bare. However, the plants in the periphery are very lush, and they seem to be growing crazily. These plants have been nourished by the yin qi for a long time, and have completely mutated. They are completely different from ordinary plants. The vegetation in the outermost area is obviously more than last time because this area is expanding outwards. Feng Shishir explained logically. Expand outward? Tian Chanzi and Tang Zheng were both shocked. The two men were not as observant as Feng Shishir, so they did not notice this change. Feng Shishir nodded. Yes. The two of them looked at each other and realized the seriousness of the problem. Tang Zheng said, Tian Chanzi, could it be that this area will continue to expand? In the end, are there more and more of these places? Tian Chanzi pondered for a long time and said, it's very likely. We can't let the human world become a place like the ghost realm. Tang Zheng said resolutely. He had been to the ghost realm, so he was very clear about the dangers of this place. Not to mention ordinary people. Even cultivators may not be able to survive here. Looking at Tang Zheng's decisive appearance, Feng Shishir's eyes were filled with love. She said, I support your decision. Tian Chanzi shrugged and spread out his hands. He said, then let's uproot this place. After a pause, Tian Chanzi said, don't you want Shura to absorb the yin qi? After absorbing all the yin qi in this place, and then get rid of those ghosts, wouldn't everything be fine? If it weren't for the lack of cultivators in these few hundred years, this place might not have developed like this. The righteous sects would have already organized powerful cultivators to destroy this place. Tang Zheng nodded and said, then let us do this job. The several people entered the tiger's den, and entered the hinterland. The sun in the sky had actually disappeared, and was instead shrouded by the yin qi that covered the sky, like a mass of gray clouds. Roar. Suddenly, a sharp roar sounded, and a gust of yin qi rushed out from the pass. More yin qi came from all directions, and swept out from the cracks in the stones. Be careful, Tang Zheng reminded, and the three people simultaneously prepared for battle. Feng Shishir had experienced many battles, and was no longer the ignorant person of the past. Her expression was serious, and she did not have the slightest bit of stage fright. Hua! A mysterious aura burst out from her body, bathing her in it, making her even more mysterious and beautiful. Golden Jade. This was the protective treasure that Tang Zheng gave her. After many days, Golden Jade was no longer the same as before. Tang Zheng's refining skills increased day by day, becoming more and more proficient. Almost all of the magic treasures around him had been refined by his hands, and from then on, they would shine with new power. He could now use the 9 revolving pill furnace to refine earth-level magic treasures, and the Golden Jade had risen from profound-level magic treasures to earth-level magic treasures. In the past, Golden Jade could only be used for defense, but now, Golden Jade could be used for attack. Both defense and attack were extremely rare. This was also because Golden Jade was originally a defensive magic treasure, which was why it could add an attack attribute. Of course, this also took Tang Zheng a lot of effort to finally succeed. He wanted to replicate this effect on other magic treasures, but in the end he destroyed several magic treasures, so he did not dare to try again. After all, although he could refine magic treasures, The materials for refining magic treasures were rare. If he wasted too much, he would not be able to afford it. Of course, because his refining skills had increased greatly, almost every witch had a magic treasure, causing the fighting strength of this team to increase greatly. Roar! Another soul-stirring roar sounded out, and 3 evil spirits flew over. Their faces were sinister, terrifying and disgusting, and they emitted a stench. Bang! 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 Tang Zheng and Tian Chanzi stood in front of Fang Shirshir, not giving her a chance to make a move, and attacked together. How could the 3 evil spirits be a match for them? They exploded with a loud bang, turning into balls of yin qi. However, the stench was really uncomfortable. Fang Shirshir curled her lips in disappointment. She did not even have a chance to show off her skills. Just as this thought flashed through her mind, she noticed a stench coming from above her head, and a fishy wind descended from the sky. Her heartstrings trembled as she hurriedly looked up. A huge and ferocious ghost had opened its bloody mouth and bit down at her. Finally, one of them. She was overjoyed. She activated her power and shot out a ray of light from the golden jade, hitting the ghost head with a bang. Ew! The ghost head staggered back with a miserable cry. Tang Zheng and Tian Chanzi heard the commotion behind them and were shocked. They turned around and saw the huge ghost head. The 2 of them wanted to attack. At this moment, a figure descended from the sky and landed on the ghost's head. He stepped on the ghost's head with 1 foot, and quickly descended. Bang! The ghost head and the figure landed at the same time. The ghost head was fiercely stomped on the ground and exploded, turning into wisps of yin qi. The few of them finally saw each other clearly, and their eyes lit up at the same time. Fang Shirshir beamed with joy and shouted loudly, "Huang Xiang!" It turned out that this figure was actually the puppet Huang Xiang. He had been cultivating here all this time. When he sensed his master's arrival, he immediately rushed over to meet her. He did not expect to see the ghost head attacking Fang Shirshir. As a puppet, he did not hesitate to launch a fatal attack on the ghost head when his master was attacked. Master! Huang Xiang stood in front of Fang Shirshir, lowered his head, and shouted in a muffled voice. Fang Shirshir looked at him with shining eyes. She was naturally very satisfied with her master's gift. However, Huang Xiang's entire body was covered with yin qi. It was almost impossible to bring him out casually to avoid unnecessary trouble. But this time, Huang Xiang's yin qi was even stronger. Standing next to him, one could feel waves of yin wind blowing, and there was a bone-piercing chill. Tang Zheng looked at him curiously, then asked Tian Chanzi, "Did his power increase again?" Tian Chanzi nodded complacently. "Of course, if I'm not wrong, his body's resistance to attacks is already very strong. I'm afraid he won't lose to you. I've already cultivated the chaotic Vajra spell to the great perfection in Destructible Realm. And you actually think that his body is the same as mine?" Tang Zheng laughed involuntarily, obviously not believing him. Tian Chanzi shrugged his shoulders and said, "All the cultivation techniques in the world have the same goal. It's not like there's only one kind of cultivation technique that can reach each realm. Moreover, he has no distractions and wholeheartedly cultivates a sacred art. He might be able to compare to you, who is half-hearted and cultivates various sacred arts. Moreover, I was the one who created him, so of course I have confidence." Tian Chanzi raised his head proudly, full of confidence. Tang Zheng did not argue with him. The stronger Huang Xiang was, the better he could protect Fang Shirshir. He was also happy to see this scene. Suddenly, Huang Xiang's eyes burst out with a cold light. He passed by the 3 of them and rushed towards the depths of the pass. Roar! A few deafening roars rang out, and then roars rose and fell one after another, coming from all directions. Huang Xiang soared into the air and punched out. A powerful force rushed out, and a few evil spirits rushed out and collided with his fist. Boom! 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 The evil spirits were torn into pieces, but even more evil spirits rushed out and surrounded Huang Xiang in an instant. "Ah, will he be all right?" Seeing that, Fang Shirshir asked in fear, wanting to rush forward to help. Tian Chanzi stopped her and said while beaming, "Didn't this brat doubt his strength? This is a good opportunity for you to see how these little ghosts are his match. You guys can watch the show." Fang Shirshir was skeptical, but glanced at Tangzhong. Seeing that his expression did not change and was not worried, she was relieved. A large group of evil spirits opened their bloody mouths and bit towards Huang Xiang. Huang Xiang's feet did not move, and he was not afraid at all. He waved his fist, and the shadows of his fist flew out, causing the evil spirits to explode immediately. Absolute kill. Clean and efficient. But after all, 2 fists were no match for 4 legs. A few of the ghost heads found an opportunity and bit Huang Xiang's shoulder. Huang Xiang did not even frown as he grabbed the ghost head and pulled it off from his shoulder. He lowered his head and directly bit the ghost head. Kacha, the ghost head was torn into pieces by him, exploding into a cloud of yin qi. Looking at his shoulder, it was as good as new. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.